these spirits are claiming to be mostly ghosts from dead spirits of humans that are roaming the earth plane, often aliens, but not aliens physically attached to you, but aliens etheric technological attachments that
Right.
they're in a lab and they're channeling through that technical attachment, which is interesting because it has the same mechanism. It'll be all sorts of aliens, very many because there's so many out there, and it'll be soul fragments, alters of yourself that are split off from trauma, or soul fragments from others, or soul fragments from people dead, living, past lives, whatever. They're all mixed, and it'll be, what else do they talk about? And demons, but they don't like to call themselves demons. They call themselves, rebrand as dark force entities, because demon just sounds too biblical, and they're not like that. They're not as bad. Right. They're not that bad. They're more victims of anything.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Broadcasting Seeds. I am your host, Bennett Tanton, and today, for the second installment of this journey, I guess we'll call it, Seth.
Let's do that.
And we've got Seth Kicklighter. Seth, welcome to Broadcasting Seeds, man.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. So we did part 1, and this is part 2. So I'm excited to hear what you're kicking. Like I said, we talked about, I've heard a little bit on another podcast, but it's interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be high octane, insane, goofy lore from the New Age, a lot of it. And we're going to be doing a breakdown, comparing some holistic healing methods and compare them all to a certain quote unquote Christian deliverance minister. And see how they line up and what that might mean about these demonic deceptions out here that are very elaborate and goofy. That's the short version, at least.
Yes, for sure. First, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yes, you can find all of my links to everything is in my link tree, which is linktree.com/Sethlehem, Bethlehem with a Seth. And you can find that link in my bio of my X account and my Instagram, which is Sethlehem, or Instagram Sethlehem _. And you can find my book, which is Spirit Realm Shenanigans, an unhinged rant exposing the psychic fabrications of discarnate dweebs and Nephilim nitwits. It's kind of blurry now, probably, whatever. But it's a thick boy with tiny font. I'm sorry. And it's basically gonna be, well, I'll go over the overview in a minute, but yeah, you can find that on Amazon. You can find it on my PayHip, which is all linked in my link tree. You can find my free audiobook. The entire book is free on Spotify and YouTube, split up by chapter, and that's 34 hours. I'm sorry. And you can
love it.
Yeah,
34 hours.
But there's goofy voices in the entire book for all the quotes.
Yeah, I started listening to it, and it's pretty good.
It's a fun time.
Awesome.
It's a fun time. It's original. I'm going to say that. And I have all my podcasts. All the podcast appearances I have are linked there. I'm going to be posting my own where I'm interviewing other people. I just here and there, random ones very soon. So keep a lookout for that because they're going to be crazy. And if you want any bangers, I have my playlists in there. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. All right, man. Let's get into it.
Yeah. So I guess I will start out with a little. I need to segue it from part 1 because they are connected. Yep. And then I'll do the 1,000-foot overview of what we're talking about today. So part 1, if you didn't watch, I recommend watching it for context, or if anything I say today you think is full of baloney, watch part 1 because it will give you more details on what's possible here. Part 1 we covered basically mostly astral travel lore, and essentially how I believe personally that the entire astral realm that we visit, not saying there's no spirit realm, but the part that we visit is essentially all controlled simulations facilitated by entities. And if you're not a Christian, you might not consider them demons. I do, but even if they're not demons, their function, and they claim to be guides, they claim to be higher ascended spirits, they claim to be various sorts of those, but essentially, ascended masters and guides, higher selves, etc. If they are who they say they are no doubt manipulating and deceiving and convincing you are going to real realms when you are not. They admit that they will create occasional, not all of it, but occasional simulations, put you in for testing, for training, for you could also call it engineering your psyche in certain ways, for repeated behavior patterns they want to work on. But yeah, they admit to these realms, and not only are these the simulated realms are said to be realer than reality, just like the astral realm. It is very powerful. They can jack into your thoughts and feed you thoughts. They can mess with your lucidity levels. They can mess with your intuition and guide you to think and feel certain things. You give up all your sovereignty whenever you go into these realms by doing divination, which God tells us not to do for a reason. And the Bible has quite a few verses supporting the whole false vision, false divination, deceit, spiritual experiences. It just doesn't get into the details like I did. So I think it's all fake and basically used to give you a false cosmology of what's out there. Because if that cosmology is true, the astral realm stuff that people have in Robert Monroe's books, Kurt Leland's, Robert Bowman, or Robert uh, Bruce, William Bowman,
Yes.
etc. If all their lore is true and the places they go are real, then Christianity's totally full of crap. But they seem to attack Christianity in these realms, and the guides seem to only focus on attacking Christianity of all the belief systems out there, which is a weird coordinated thing that maybe demons would possibly do. So, and their control is perfect and masterful, and it's every little detail to a degree you can't understand unless you listen to the podcast and listen to the testimonies. So, anyway, yeah, that's part one. Please watch it. It's a fun time. And part two today is, which I have 3 parts of bedrock material. Next would be reincarnation debunk, covering the birthmarks and everything involved with that. And I'm working
Yep.
on part 4, which is a time travel debunk, because we're going to need that pretty soon. But that's,
No shit.
yeah,
Lately.
yeah, because they're really pushing that whole timeline war thing. So I'm working on that right now. It'll be done in a week or two. And then part 2 today is going to be basically a Dan Duval defamation, which it's going to take a minute to get there, because the first half has to be covering New Age / Gnostic healing methodologies, which I will get into the details of, and then the second half is going to be covering Dan Duval's, and you need the bedrock of the New Age practice, because it's the same
Yes.
thing. What happens here is we're going to cover New Age spirit releasement therapy, which was bigger in the 80s, 90s in small pockets and areas, but I don't know if it's died out or what, but I don't hear anybody talk about it ever, which is insane. There's full manual books on how to do this by a few people. I'll cover my sources soon. And it is basically New Age exorcism, where they're channeling a spirit and talking to it and convincing it to leave. But the patient that goes in for this is going in for some ailment, physical, mental, spiritual warfare, etc., all sorts of different things. And pretty much everything is healed in this practice. After they channel a spirit and tell it to leave, and these spirits are claiming to be mostly ghosts from dead spirits of humans that are roaming the earth plane, often aliens, but not aliens physically attached to you, but aliens, etheric technological attachments that
Right.
they're in a lab and they're channeling through that technical attachment, which is interesting because it has the same mechanism. It'll be all sorts of aliens, very many, because there's so many out there, and it'll be soul fragments, alters of yourself that are split off from trauma, or soul fragments from others, or soul fragments from people dead, living, past lives, whatever. They're all mixed, and it'll be, what else do they talk about? And demons, but they don't like to call themselves demons. They call themselves, rebrand as dark force entities, because demon just sounds too biblical, and they're not like that. They're not as
Yeah.
bad. They're
Right.
not that bad. They're more victims of anything. So they've cast themselves as characters. They put on a show, and it's not just a show because they're saying words and channeling. It's also because the patient, whenever they're going through this healing, before it's over, they're getting an entire third eye vision going along with it, like a remote viewing style vision, where they're not like fully out of body. It's not as immersive, but as we know in part 1, the immersive control of astral travel is so detailed and so perfect. Remote viewing is nothing for them, because it's like a much lower CPU requiring version of it. It's more impression and download based, and gnosis that goes along with it. So it's much easier to control than astral travel. And if astral travel is so controlled, then this is nothing for them, just letting you know. So the controlled visions are showing what they are saying happened. They're seeing light beings, they're seeing fake demons, they're seeing metaphysical trappings, they're seeing a very elaborate stuff, which we'll get into examples. So that's the New Age version, and the healing is fake, because they might actually, what's happening is demons are the ones controlling the pressure they're laying on you, whatever it is. Now, yes, they're only allowed to because of whatever sin you may have done in your life, or whatever openings you have left, but they are causing the ailments, or at least have control to stop it. So then they will
Right.
heal you. They will heal you by taking away whatever ailment you went in for. usually often temporarily, right? But
Yeah.
at the moment the vision ends and they leave, quote unquote, is when you are healed and you will feel different and you will feel good and they can make you feel good and they will do that. They are trading your healing, temporary often, for belief in their new cosmology, which for Dan Duval is going to be Christian, quote unquote, but it's going to be an expansive, very old Earth, literal aliens. It's going to be aliens aren't demons in meat suits, that's for sure. It pushes Gnostic lore. It validates time travel. It validates alternate timelines. It validates all these things in a Christian framework, which isn't biblical at all, of course. But he makes it, and he's convincing a lot of Christians it is. So for the New
Right.
Agers, it's nothing, but it's bridging the two worlds. And my whole thing is that the lore they're catering to Dan Duval is totally it's the same methodology, it's the same vision control, it's the same
Mhm.
channeling, which we'll get into why it's slightly different. But they are trading your belief for healing, and often they'll come back later worse, or they'll maybe take care of you because you're an asset now. If you're an asset and you're doing work for them and spreading the lore, you're going to get more spiritual protection than others, and that seems to be a pattern emerging from the later testimonies. So, yeah, Dan Duval is the demons that are masking as these characters do the same thing for Dan Duval, and they're just playing at a show. Now in New Age stuff, there's 80% of them are ghosts, and then there's aliens and soul fragments. For Dan Duval, there's no ghosts. It's all demons, literal aliens, and soul fragments, of course, which you have to merge with yourself and ask them to merge with you. That's weird. Totally not a demon.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's. I'll try not to get too off topic because we'll get into the details. But it's the same practice rebranded for a Christian audience, and they cannot coexist. If you see the details on what's coming out of them, there's no way they can coexist without the overlap that they should have with the ghosts and other things, and that they're both healing people. So the only
Mhm.
explanation for them existing is demons catering different lore to different people, which is totally a thing they do, and convincing you of their expansive cosmology that's non-biblical, whether you want to call it that or not. So that's hope that makes sense. That's my rant.
Yeah, for sure. Wow.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
gonna be
Dan, I've seen Dan a few times on different shows. And it's almost like when he starts going into stuff too, it's like he goes so fast, it's almost
and he
to
glosses
confuse
over
you.
big topics very
Yeah, huge
quickly.
topics, and it's almost like it's there to confuse you.
Yeah.
Or it's just like, I don't know. Some of it's weird. Some of it, I mean,
Not
some of it
everything he says is garbage,
right.
but when he's
Of course
talking
not.
about I listened to over I'm using verbatim quotes for everything when I talk about him. I'm not using anything. I'll let you know when I'm making assumptions,
Right.
but it's all verbatim quotes and they're from interviews. Now everything else here is from books because his book about pre-Adamic memories didn't come out till after my uh book did, and I haven't really read it, but I have enough from his quotes and podcasts. I had to listen to 40 or 50 hours of his material more than once for a lot of it, to take all these notes and to get him saying things. And so often he'll say the most craziest, outlandish stuff and gloss over it so quickly, and they won't ask questions about it.
And nobody
And
pushes them because it's like they're
yeah,
sitting there. I feel like it's almost like they're just so taken aback that I go, I don't even want to open
he's a
that
man
can
of
of
God. I
worms.
can't question him. He's a true,
Right.
it's
Or
like,
or literally like, oh my God, like I don't even want to go there
yeah.
because what where are we going? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's blowing up right now. He said he claims 10,000 hours in deliverance ministry himself. I don't know who's counting that, but that's interesting. He said he's training hundreds, soon to be in the thousands, over 1,000, I assume. He's training that many people. So the trickle down effect from this is very major, and I think we need to talk about it now. Now, I want to say before I go on, shitting on the man too hard. I've been assuming he's been started off deceived by these demons and has shifted over the many years into some kind of nefarious, somewhat knowing that he's doing wrong here and not biblical. And I've been saying that for a while. And in my book, I roast the hell out of him. And we should be roasting him, from a biblical standpoint. But I've been going pretty hard, and I've just assumed that he knows what he's doing is wrong because he's, had lawsuits with people claiming he's an occultist, and people have called him this before, and he's fought them on it. Now, I'm open lately into believing he's genuinely very, very deceived and he means well. And he just really believes that these people are wrong because he's healing people and he thinks he's a healer.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to get in contact with him. I'm in the process of it right now, and if I do, I have a note written for him that I'm going to say, "Hey, watch my breakdown. You will be proven, not as some assumed, but proven to be dealing with demons here." And if he comes around, they would be a great thing. It'd be a miracle because he could come out and say, and it's a big thing to, your whole life's work is now totally destroyed, and you have to do it takes a lot of, ego destruction to get through that. So I'm praying that he comes around, but for the time being, I have no idea if he knows what he's doing is wrong. And when you hear the details, you might assume there's no way he's that dumb because this is like very obvious.
I mean, a
But
lot of the stuff he does is obviously like occult style
yeah,
Gnostic concept stuff, right? To me at
yeah,
least.
but
So
not everybody has that discernment or at least that knowledge of, reading the Bible and all these things to understand that these things don't line up. But I'm gonna assume decent intent for now, but we will be roasting him pretty hard. Sorry, Dan, if you're listening. Got to do it, bro. So yeah, I'm gonna get into I guess the sources of what we're covering, and then I'll jump into it. We're using a couple, which is, Dan Duvall's is the second half. I'm using his verbatim quotes from interviews, presentations, lectures, etc. But for the rest of it, it is going to be mostly William J. Baldwin's Spirit Releasement Therapy Manual book, which came out, I think, in 92, 94, and also his CE6, Close Encounters of the Possession Kind book, which came out, I think, in 98. Those are the two of the main ones. Also, and that one's about aliens only, so that's really some interesting stuff there. Um, and then we'll be covering, well, mixed in, we're covering Shakuntala Modi's Remarkable Healings book, which is basically in line fully with Baldwin's work. So they're doing this with multiple people. It's not just him. And there's more, but those are the two sources I read and dissected. And hers is less of a manual, more so transcripts and conversations. So you hear the dialogue and how goofy and silly it is. Pretty crazy stuff. And then we're going to be starting off with Carl Wicklund's 30 Years Among the Dead book, which is come out in 1924, I believe. It's 30 years of transcripts and channelings. It's showing direct conversations, many of them with ghosts, and we'll get into why they don't intersect very well in a minute. But that is an older source, and you can tell it's older because it's less complicated and less convoluted, intentionally, I think, for a
yeah,
simpler time. And the core parallels between all these is that they're trance state based, where the patient is going into a hypnotic state. And Duvall calls it being prayer interviewed. He doesn't like to call it anything occult sounding, so he'll change the labels, but it's the same thing. Now, the main difference between Duvall's work and the rest of them is everybody else is channeling through the voice of the patient. They're all channeling an entity through them. He says they all have visions, but he says his difference is that no, we're not channeling because the patient is going into their mind's eye. He calls it inner world, the third eye vision I was talking about, where they're getting consistent third eye vision. And he's telepathically communicating with the entities involved and then spilling the beans to Dan with their mouth. Instead of letting them take over, they're acting as a human Ouija board, which is still channeling if you're using a Ouija board, but it's the same thing. It's just it's one step removed from channeling. And now I believe that he might be exaggerating or lying partially because I think he does both, and that's because he kind of admits to it later. We'll cover that later because it's a direct quote where he Freudian slips potentially and says that he does channel. But anyway,
yeah,
he claims he doesn't channel, and maybe that's true. But either way, it's a Ouija board of a human, not really any better. Same deception can be achieved with it. But no, because the person getting a third eye vision and seeing Jesus and the angels show up, it must be the real guys. And we know they don't impersonate Jesus and angels, right?
yeah.
Right? No, no, they do. They do. And
Of
we'll get into
course.
where they admit that they do very soon. So, yeah, and they're all healed, at least temporarily. And like I said, if you're more of an asset, they're probably going to protect you more. That seems to be a pattern going on. So,
Well, I mean, so just let me, I know you've kind of explained this, but just in like, I don't know, more layman's terms,
yeah,
right? So we've got Dan Duvall, who approaches this whole thing kind of like Christian deliverance, spiritual warfare, trauma, and second heaven cosmology stuff,
sure.
right? Then you've got like William Baldwin, who does essentially the same thing. It's very much related, but through hypnosis, regression therapy. I love
And
that. Past life
they're
regression therapy.
pre-consenting for an entity to come forward and channel them. And also
Right.
Duval essentially is doing the same thing, just not through the mouth.
Yeah. So past life therapy, spirit attachment, transpersonal psychology, take your flavor, right?
Yeah.
Possession, entity removal, whatever you want to say.
Yes,
Gotcha.
it's a new age exorcism. It's a much nicer, cleaner way to do it, but it's deceptive completely.
Yeah.
And the visions really solidify the whole thing, which is why the vision concept in episode 1 is so important to understand, because once you understand they can control your visions completely, and remote viewing is all garbage. I mean, yeah, they can give you real information and make you think you're a psychic, but it's all entity facilitated. Without an entity there, you're not going to accomplish anything. I don't think it's an innate ability personally, as well as any psychic stuff. I think it's all demonically filtered, all the information you're getting. But they'll give you true
Gotcha.
stuff but whenever it's important for them to disinform you
Mm.
with cosmology you can't even verify, it's gonna have a consistency to it. And they think, oh, consistency, data consistency through all these different people saying the same thing. It must be because it's real and tangible, or it's a coordinated operation. That's an explanation
Well,
that makes
yeah,
sense.
because it's mostly based on experience, right? It's also
Yeah,
experiential.
you can't
What?
deny experience, huh? You know?
Right. I guess not. I mean, at the end of the day, I know what I've had.
Yeah,
Like when it comes, but not with this
yeah,
stuff. But like Bigfoot, for example. It's how have who knows? Bottom line is though, who knows?
yeah.
So
Running across an entity is different than doing an occult practice and having a spiritual encounter.
correct,
Yeah,
totally different,
not the
totally,
same thing.
totally different. But either way,
Yeah.
not to get off. I just want
No, you're
people to
good.
understand that with this stuff, it all kind of rhymes. Just like we talked about last episode, where what I do with what you could call Christian healing and Reiki, they
Yeah,
kind of freaking rhyme. I'm just saying.
they do.
That's from my personal experience. I just can tell you that there's a difference in where that comes from, um, in my opinion. So
Yeah, I've heard of miraculous healings in the middle of churches where people's limbs grow in front of people, and you have tons of witnesses. And I don't think
it's all
demons.
wild. But
I don't
where
think
does that
demons can
come
do
from?
that. I think they can
Probably
take
not.
away. I think they can take away healings. I don't think they can make your limbs grow.
Right.
Personally, I think God can do that, and He will if He sees fit. But
So
yeah, I'm not a cessationist to any degree. Uh,
but that's where this deception comes from too, because if they rhyme, sometimes you're like, oh shit. Well,
Yeah, it might be the same
yeah,
thing. There's no
yeah,
difference, but
right.
yeah, it's dangerous because it's elaborate and specific, and you have to understand the convoluted information. Which today is going to be a little convoluted and specific, and I need people to understand the dynamics of what's happening here because it will make. I can't explain it in a way that makes sense, but it will be a little. You got to focus a little bit, guys, because it is a handful in a minute. But I'm going to make it fun. It's going to be funny.
Gotcha.
So yeah, we're gonna start off with Carl Wickland's 30 Years Among the Dead. That'll be a quick little segue into the spirit releasement therapy work. This is important because this came out in the 20s. This is all transcripts, tons of goofy stuff here. And here's a big difference between this lore and the later stuff. So for starters, Carl Wickland, him and his wife are doing this practice. The main difference between him and the other stuff is that one, he is only dealing with ghosts. In 30 years, he's never encountered an entity that wasn't a ghost or an ascended spirit. There's no aliens, there's no demons, there's no soul fragments even, which is all stuff that came only 60, 80 years later in the spirit releasement therapy work. Um, I don't know how you've never encountered these things in 30 years of channeling when everybody else encounters them more often than not. Just statistically, it seems unlikely. Maybe it's the prompting, maybe it's the practitioner, maybe who knows? But it just seems statistically unlikely that that would be the case. Um, Now, these ghosts are attached apparently to a patient who comes in for a healing, and instead of channeling them directly, they do it different because Wickland will shock the patient with a little electric device, little stabby with them and shock them, and because spirits told him to. By the way, he channeled previously, and it won't hurt the person that much, but it'll apparently freak out the attachment so much that they leave their body and they immediately jump out. And then Carl Wickland's wife, they're a power couple here doing it together. I love that. It's very cute. His wife will be like a D1 wide receiver and catch them in her aura and channel them herself. So she'll channel them. And
Wow.
and this is what they do for a long time, 30 years. And so she'll catch them, and then the patient will be there, and they'll conversate with the entity, with the doctor often. So it's a little bit different than the later work, but it's the same idea. And she will be getting the visions, and she will be getting she will be channeling. So all of these ghosts, pretty much 99% of them are full blown retards with donkey brains. They do not seem to know who they are. They don't know they're dead. They don't know details of their life, and they start to remember when you question them over and over. But they're so easily distracted, and they'll be talking about like, "Hey, where did you come from? Do you know you're dead?" And they'll be like, "What?" And they'll be channeling through a body and possessing it completely, and totally be unaware that they're in a woman's body channeling. Like like even though they've been a spirit attached to a person forever, not interacting with people, all of a sudden they're having a full blown conversation, totally unaware that they're possessing a body. Uh, and it's kind of like that doesn't make any sense to me. But they will start to remember details as you question them, but they'll get so distracted. You'll be like, "Oh, how did you? Where did you grow up?" And they'll be like, "Do you have any morphine? I would love some morphine right now." Anything they're addicted to, because the reason they're on the Earth plane apparently is they're building a story. They're saying I'm on the Earth plane because I'm addicted to sex or drugs or alcohol, and typically what the ghosts do is if they died an alcoholic, they will then be roaming the earth plane addicted, and they will find an alcoholic because they'll match their energy signature, and they'll be like, "Oh, well, we're similar, so I can connect to you." And they'll connect to them, and they will merge with them to where they can now live vicariously through them. And when they get
Hmm.
drunk, and they can make them want to desire getting drunk more, they can increase your desire because they're connected to you, and a desire you already have, but they can increase it, just like demons are said to do. And they will make you want to drink so that they can get drunk and feel it through you. Okay, merging. So keep that in mind for later. It's important. Um, so yeah, they will not spill the beans on elaborate cosmology that much, like the later ghosts of the future do. The ghosts of the future are much more smarter. They can have easier conversations without being such retards. Sometimes they'll be retarded, but they're much more cognitive, and they will share cosmology more and all these various things. Now, the reason Wicklund does get a hold of some cosmology information from spirits is because these ghosts, after they are sent to the light, because at the end of it, you convince them to go to the light realm, the heaven realms, but it's not like biblical heaven. And you convince them, and they go, you're right. I should go up there. That sounds nice. And light beings will come and rescue them, which will be seen in the mind's eye vision of the person channeling, which is his wife in this case. And they will see this all go down. They'll see light beings show up in their vision, and they'll see them rescue them. It's a very beautiful, wholesome reunion. Then these ghosts weeks or months later will show up after being rescued, and they'll say, "Hey, remember me? I'm that retard you saved. Thanks so much for helping me. By the way, reincarnation is not real. You just keep ascending through higher realms." Now, I tell people this, and they go, "Well, don't demons always push reincarnation lore? Don't they always have the cohesive message there?" Often, more often than not, yes. And we'll get into the details, but reincarnation lore is not pushed in every religion, but it is pushed in most of them. Now, if Christianity is true, if it's the way, why didn't demons create one counter religion to Christianity? Why did they use men to create all these various similar often but very different varied belief systems? Well, for many reasons. For one, it creates this idea that Christianity is one in one in the bucket of a huge amount of belief systems, watering down its importance. And two, it's strategically more it's smarter to strategically operate in this way and to expand into different belief systems, because one, the vast majority of people they know will follow one that caters to them or they grow up with or makes sense to them. The vast majority of people are not going to cross-examine various belief systems, the vast majority. And when they do, they still end up picking one that's usually deception anyway, or they come to Christianity. So it's strategically better for them to muddy the waters with more belief systems. And this coming around saying reincarnation is not real, which we'll get into the details in a second, is strategically beneficial to them, because you can align with whatever you want. They know most people aren't going to cross examine. It is just there's a lot of reasons for it. Here's the thing. I'm going to read a little quote because Carl Wicklund, after channeling these ghosts forever, he's accessed past life memories from people, and he's been told by these spirits. They tell him, and he believes them, that those past life memories belong to this ghost attachment, not a demon fabricating one, like I'm saying,
Yeah.
not a fake memory, but they're real memories. They're just from the attachments connected to you. So if so he doesn't believe in past life memories. He thinks they're all ghost attachments. And he says, and I'm going to read a quote so you know I'm not just making stuff up. He says the theory of reincarnation can undoubtedly be traced to the early stages of mankind when departed spirits took possession of the bodies of sensitive individuals and lived and acted through them, thus seemingly indicating reincarnation. But in reality, this was only spirit obsession. The supposed memories of past lives of those who believe in reincarnation are far better accounted for by the presence of invisible intelligences whose memories of their own mortal careers are conveyed through the thought waves of the reincarnationists who have become sensitized to such impressions. So, this guy channeling spirits for 30 years doesn't believe in reincarnation, which most people, when they channel, they will consistently get spirits promoting reincarnation, saying it's real. We'll get into why it intersects a bit in the SRT stuff in a few minutes, but for now, I'll just say even Helena Blavatsky, the ghost of Helena Blavatsky, was channeled at the end of this book. And she comes and says, yeah, I know I push reincarnation and theosophy so much, but I was wrong. My bad. And we know it's her because a mind's eye vision and because she said so. So it's just a little too good to be true. It seems a little on the nose. Now, like I said, a strategic advantage to mudding the waters here with these various belief systems. People will just go aligning with whatever. And where was I? Yeah, so he doesn't say these are demons. He doesn't believe in demons. Doesn't push that at all. He thinks the Bible. He promotes the Bible in the book, but as it's metaphorically to be read, not literal at all. And the metaphors are all Gnostic. So, yeah, I think that's all I have to say about Carl Wicklund's work, and you will start to see where things intersect and don't in a minute. But yeah, we are now at spirit releasement therapy, which is I'm gonna just go over kind of the process of what's happening here, because people need to understand. Do you have any questions so far, though, or any comments?
I don't.
All right, bet, because I'm rolling right now. Let's go. So I want to make sure I don't do this out of order. So yeah, he has a different process for ghosts, for demons, for aliens. You know, they have a slightly different process, but they start off about the same, which is first finding out who they are, like what entity type they are, which they will gladly tell you. The ghosts seem to know their ghosts, which is interesting because the old ones don't seem to know their ghosts often. And yeah, so they will find out who they are, and then they will usually ask them like, "Hey, how did you get connected to this person?" Often it's random. If it's a ghost, it's half the time random, half the time they knew you in a past life or they died and knew you in this life, and they're obsessed with you for good or bad reasons. We'll get into testimonies later. It'll be if it's demons, they'll have a slightly different process. If it's aliens, it'll be something else. But they'll ask them the similar questions: Why are you attached? How did you get attached? What ailments are you causing? Usually, it's one they came in for and they already knew about, and they'll just tell you what you want to hear. And they'll get visions and see these entities in their mind's eye. Now, for ghosts, they will question them, get some cosmology questions answered. I should say I want to stay in order. So 80% of what William J. Baldwin encounters and Shakuta Lamoti about 80% are said to be ghosts. Now, Dan Duvall's never encountered a ghost, so that's, interesting
Right.
that 80% of theirs are. About 10% are dark force entities, aka demons, rebranded, and the rest are aliens, soul fragments, etc. The numbers there seem to fluctuate, but it's around that. Now, what basically happens is they question them, they talk to them, they convince them, hey, you're causing this person ailments, you're causing them problems. You need to get out of here, bro. And they might put up a fight a little bit, but they'll eventually go, you know what, you're right. You make a good point. I want to go to the light realms. I want to reincarnate. They promote reincarnation, these spirits do. So they will see light beings come down whenever they're summoned. You will summon them metaphysically, and they'll show up and they'll be seen in the mind's eye vision, and they will rescue them and take them to the light realms. And we'll get into the details more. But for demons, for dark force entities, it's a bit different. You got to metaphysically trap them because they're little scoundrels and they might run off. So to metaphysically trap them, and this methodology, by the way, is gotten by a lot of trial and error, but mostly from channeling light beings who told them to do these things specifically. So most of this is coming from light being channelings in the past. So the method that they've came to after years is they will call upon certain specific groups of light beings. They can't just call upon source or God or whatever. They have to ask for specific names or it won't work. Some of the names of the groups of light beings, which do different jobs, is the warrior angels of light, sick. The Mercy Band of Rescue Angels, gay. You have the Mighty Rescue Spirits of Light, mighty men, kind of on the nose, baby.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and the very on the nose Legions of Light, which is, I'm sorry, that's just you're getting too close to the sun, demons. You got to be a little bit more careful. They don't
Right.
seem to mind using those terminologies and rebranding them though. So they will call upon those for different parts of the trappings and the releasements and all these things. I'm not gonna get into which is which because it's too much. But, yeah, they will ask for help, and one of those groups is responsible for metaphysically trapping in a capsule of light the demon. So they will trap them, and they will be in the mind's eye vision, they will see this. They will see them captured and trapped in a light, and they'll still be channeling the demon, though. They're captured, they're stuck, but they're channeling the whole time as if nothing changed. It's just a little weird. And, yeah, they will then question the trap demon and assess their reason for attachment, their purpose, their effects on the client, and then they'll put up a little fight, do a little theatrics, but they'll answer your questions. They'll respond to you, and they have more of an angsty teenager kind of level of malevolence. It's not like a calculated, intelligent evil. It's like it's very childish. It's very like embarrassing the way they present themselves, which I don't think is accurate of who they really are. I'm gonna read a quote. This is what Wicklund and Modi the tell the demons because they're trying to convert them into being a new ager basically and be like, hey, you've been deceived. So they say the first deception in the dark realm is that there is no light within the individual being. Once they believe that, they are under total subjugation by their dark superiors. No light as in no spark of light connected to source. Like they're disconnected completely. Some interesting themes there. So they are controlled by threat of annihilation. The second deception is that they can be annihilated, destroyed, they can cease to exist. The third deception is that the light will harm them, burn them, or destroy them. So of course
Hmm.
they avoid the light. The DFEs are totally controlled by threat and fear through these three deceptions. So the demons are just deceived little teenage boys, and they're just doing work for their dark lords because they're tricked and they
Right.
think it's their only choice. They're actually not that bad. So we gotta convince them that they're good guys and they can be on our team. So after you tell the demon this, they'll go, "Huh? What? I could be a good guy if I want? No way. This is great." And they're super nice after this. Now what really solidifies this experience is because they think you might be lying. They'll go, "No, are you sure? I don't know about that." And then and then you go, "No, I swear. Look," they say, "Look within yourself, brother. You will find a spark of light. Look within." And then they literally metaphysically look within their metaphysical body and they go, "No way I see it. What? This is crazy." And then they transform into a light being instantly in the vision, and they will see this. So they're transformed now, and they're a light being just like that,
Right.
just by
Yeah.
recognizing it was already there. This has literally happened thousands of times. I'm thousands. I'm not joking. So this is what happens. And then light beings, the same ones that are there, will take them to the light where they will get a job as a light being now. I don't know if they reincarnate. I think they become like a worker bee in the light being realm, like angels basically, but not
Right.
biblical. This is what happens, and they will see this in the mind's eye. And it's funny because the therapist will ask, like, "Hey," to the demon, like, "Hey, do you recognize anybody you know in those light being groups over there?" And they'll be like, "Yeah, that's my friend Jeff. He used to be a demon, and look at him. Look at how great he's doing. I want to be like, like literally. It's just like whenever they ask a light being to come rescue a ghost, they'll say, "Do you recognize any light being you recognize? Do you see anybody you recognize?" And they'll be like, "Yeah, that's my Aunt Brenda right there. I remember her." They always know
Right.
somebody.
Yeah.
It's just
Right.
it's just maybe yeah, it makes sense they would send someone they know. I suppose it's just very silly to me. It's the same pattern. And then so they convert that demon, and we'll come back to a process they add in later, but I'm going to skip it for now. But it's important because they're not done with them right then. They usually help them with a little favor, a little crazy mission. And then after that mission, which we'll get into later, they'll send him off to the light and they'll be gone from the body. And after that vision ends and it's over and the spirits are gone, then they're healed. So it's all strategically timed and all that. Um, let's see. Uh, I read that. I did that. I did that. Therapist. Oh, this okay. This is really goofy stuff here. This is very important. So, I'll read this in a second, but Carl, no. William J. Baldwin in his book says, often you will get several fake light being fake guides showing up who are actually demons shapeshifting into light beings, and they will show up so they can trick you and then take the demon to the dark realm instead of the light realm after this process. But they'll go through the same process and pretend to be light beings. Now, here's how you defeat and see through the spirit and test the spirit. In the mind's eye vision, which may or may not be completely controlled anyway, they will say that the shapeshifter, the fake light beings, the demons can only hold their form for no more than actually, I'll just read it. I got to read it. Okay, he says black and red are the signal color for the DFEs. The red eyes are a dead giveaway. So if they got red eyes in the mind's eye vision they control, they're a fake. These shapeshifters can attempt to impersonate a loved one, a helping angel, even the Christ figure. No way. That's crazy. But the eyes, the windows to the soul, give them away. In these false guides, a DFE can hold the normal color for no more than a minute. Then the red begins to show. So, he's saying in the mind's eye vision that might be completely controlled, these shapeshifter fake light beings that are actually demons, if you look at them in your mind's eye, if you stare at them, make eye contact with them for a minute in the light being, realm, they will shapeshift into a demon because they can't hold their form that long. They can shapeshift, but they're really, really bad at it for minimally extended periods of time.
For extended periods of time.
Not even extended, just a minute.
Right.
But only if you're focusing in on them and really looking at, like, how does, okay, sure, whatever. They're shapeshifters, but they're not that good at it.
Yeah.
But they're also controlling the entire vision anyway, so it doesn't matter. So here's what's happening here. They're putting on a show, making you think you caught them. They're doing this so that you have a false, this whole thing is so deceptive. The entire process is all deception. They have to throw you a bone occasionally to make you go, yeah, I see. I figured it out. I see through the deception. I got my discernment locked in. They're doing it so they have to throw you a bone to make you feel like you figured it out, because they probably encounter sketchy stuff and things that are too good to be true through this process so often that they're like, it's so easy. So they got to make it seem like there's a little bit of a battle going on. He says that these fake guides, he says sometimes it'll be 5 or 6 in a row before a real one can get through. Now, if you're calling upon the right angel by saying the right names metaphysically, commanding them, summoning them, isn't there some legal right that means the right one has to come through? How are fake ones coming through 5 in a row, and then you have to test the spirit 5 times in a row, and then a real one comes through?
Right.
It's so goofy to me that you don't see, you don't question the entire operation now. That is absolutely insane to me.
Yeah, it's a little wild.
And I throw that out there because they also admit that they can impersonate Christ, Jesus. They're admitting that. And I already knew that can happen, and there's many examples of it, but that's just one where they say it definitely happens. And it's demons doing that. Dark force entities, I'm sorry. Pronouns. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. I think I covered all that. So, yeah, there's more, of course. We got to talk about soul fragments and etheric tech attachments. Which
I'm interested in this whole soul fragment idea.
It's complex
because that's where, I wouldn't say that I like. It just seems weird to me. So
yeah. Now it's layered. We'll get into it try to get on the layers if we can. Now Duval pushes all this stuff. He pushes both.
Oh yeah, he definitely pushes the soul fragment part.
Yeah, which you need to reintegrate, by the way, to be full and whole in your soul.
Correct. Right.
Which I didn't know. You don't need to do that to be saved. I know, so I don't know why you really need it. I guess it just heals you. But I'm gonna read some quotes of them explaining it, and we'll go over some lore in a second. So for soul fragments, it says, these can be separated from a person and just follow like a balloon on a string, metaphysically. A mind fragment of a living person can be with another living person as an attached entity. A fragment can remain in the location of trauma or an especially joyous event even. The fragment can sometimes be found in a distant location. If a fragment occurred in a prior lifetime, the fragment might still be back there/then. Nearly all of these fragments can be located and recovered in a therapy session. A serious traffic accident, even a narrowly missed collision, can cause a fragment to separate and move towards the light, assuming it had died, with its own autonomy, apparently. The shock, the emotional impact of the trauma on the psyche can lead to fragmentation of the consciousness, the soul essence. Fragmentation presents a wide open door for any passing entity. If there are literally pieces missing from the soul essence of the individual, an entity can easily enter and attach. Now, there's some truth to that. They're saying if you're traumatized and your fragments separate, if you're traumatized enough, an entity can get in. I know that's true. I know trauma-based mind control works for a reason. Now,
Yes.
are are there literally chunks of your soul ejected metaphysically from you, which get separated and can be reintegrated? Just like the shamanic soul travel, astral travel thing, where shamans will go and astral travel to the astral realm, and they'll recover soul fragments in the astral, then put it back in your soul. It's the same idea, except they're just metaphysically commanding stuff with legal rights and stuff to return. Now, it's the same concept as shaman astral travel healing, but it's a little bit more it's just different mechanics in recovering them. But same lore. I don't think soul fragments are real. I think it's a cover for demons masking as another character because these soul fragments are alters of you. So if you get fragmented at 6 years old because you're traumatized as a 6 year old, that fragment will stay 6 years old. And when you channel that fragment, which you can channel all these, they will talk like a 6 year old. And if you see them in the mind's eye vision, you will see them as a 6 year old version of yourself or of somebody else
Yeah.
or whatever age because they'll stay that age, but they'll have their own mind and their own autonomy, and they will have their own consciousness, which I don't believe in all that personally. I think you can maybe create alters via trauma because it's like a way of God's created our brains to cope with certain things. So we split so that we can handle it and compartmentalize things and not be constantly thinking about the trauma. But does that create an alter where you have its own personality? I don't believe that. I think the trauma itself maybe opens you up, and that other personality is a demon getting in because of that opening that's been created. And then they'll claim to be you, but really it's just a alter taking over, a demonic entity taking over, claiming to be another version of yourself because they ask you to reintegrate them to you, which is actually
Right.
asking a demon to merge with you potentially, is what I'm saying. Does this make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah.
It's
It's this
convoluted as
whole
hell.
well, because there's this I mean the Bible. Let's just use the Bible for example. You've got passages that are often used in conversation about this stuff, or like,
But
he
it could be
restores
easily
my soul. And
metaphorical. Yeah.
exactly,
It's
exactly. So
poetry as it could be, yeah, easily.
right. So, but like, I mean, we have all this stuff. Clearly, the Bible talks about souls and spirit
Yeah.
and heart and mind and bondage and captivity, of course, right?
Yeah.
And oppression and deliver all these things, right? But it's I think where you really gotta. But the caution is the Bible does not lay out a technical,
Yeah, I was gonna say that, yeah.
like a technical doctrine
There's no example of
called
Jesus integrating spirits back
right.
or soul
There's
fragments back
no
to you.
there's no layout of technical doctrine called soul fragmentation in the way that modern deliverance teachers or people like Dan Duvall
Yeah.
describe it, right?
We're not even ordered to exercise people, which I'm not saying we shouldn't, but I'm saying it's gonna be overdone if they did order us to do that. I think it should be for extreme
Yeah.
cases. I'll do a rant about that at the end, which is very important.
So I would say that like the biblical category of like inner brokenness or captivity or oppression and the restoration is strong. Like the modern technical map of soul fragmentation is more speculative. So
Well, it's
I
created by channeled entities. So who
right.
is that? Is that
Yeah,
angels?
exactly.
You know, if you needed to integrate your soul fragments to be more whole, it says God, heals our soul. Not we're doing a divination type practice, a healing practice to do it. And if it was real, Jesus would have done it once. He would have done
Yeah.
it. He would have done it once, and he never did.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in it. I don't think it's real, and it's definitely. And if it is real, why is it intersected with this other completely deceptive practice orchestrated by
Right.
demons? Why do
Well,
they want you
because
to
what
do it?
you're showing is this whole building of a whole hidden cosmology
Yeah.
around someone's pain.
Yes.
And that's not real.
No, I
Not
know.
really.
You're telling me, man. I do want to
Okay.
give an example of. They said that a mind fragment can be a living person, like a soul fragment can be of a living person that is with another living person as an attached entity. So right now, my soul fragment can separate and attach to you, and then you can channel me, my fragment, through you while I'm alive. Now, an example of this is in one testimony, a son talking about his mother goes in for a session, and he ends up channeling a soul fragment who claims to be his mother who's alive. And this soul fragment is attached to him because his mother was such like a helicopter mom, so obsessed with him, such a
Yeah.
hardcore parent that it separated and connected with him due to her obsession. And now that's why he has all these like overbearing thoughts of his mother. I'm like, no, you just had a weird mom, and now you think about her a lot because she gave you trauma or something. But now it's saying no, a fragment is connected, and you can channel his living mother, and he channels his living mother, even though she has no memory of this, of course. And really, or is that maybe an entity saying whatever just making up a story to expand the potential of consciousness and what is potentially doable with all this lore. It's expanding the cosmology to really extra biblical areas. But Duval doesn't. I haven't heard him say anything like that, but I'm sure he believes in it because it's all connected. But this is coming from the New Age lore specifically. But he pushes all the same kind of ideas. Um,
Yeah.
just without the ghosts because there's no ghosts. Now, talking about etheric devices, the ones that are controlled by aliens from labs and bases, which you channel as if they're connected to you the same way, he says etheric devices of various forms. These can serve various purposes, such as control, energy drainage, monitoring, blocking spiritual growth. They are typically non-physical, but can manifest physical or psychological symptoms. Such as small energetic devices, often described as crystalline, metallic, or organic in appearance, implanted in the aura, chakras, or physical body, used for various reasons such as controlling of appetites for food, drugs, sexual activity, turning the dial up on emotions of choice such as anger, anxiety, etc. Just further distancing from entity attachment in general, saying, "Oh, well, now we got to worry about this whole thing. It's actually aliens, and they claim to be doing it for data and research. That's why the aliens are doing this stuff, by the way, which we'll talk about more later. But it is pretty interesting stuff. I don't know if you have any thoughts there.
No, I'm good.
I bet. All right. So I do want to do a little callback to the astral lore content of episode 1 because out of all the research I've done here, there is no entity attachment lore I can find in astral travel lore. And the worlds intersect in every way possible, the cosmology, but they seem to have no entity attachments that I can see. Now, there is something similar where they have ghosts that will be obsessed with people following them around, but they will not merge with them and live through them. It is not the same thing. Like, for example, in Robert Monroe's work, there's this ghost who's trying to bang this lady who's already having sex with another living guy, and they're both alive and they're trying to have sex, and this ghost is trying to get in between them. He's saying things like, "If only Tommy can get out the way, I can get some." He's like mad. He doesn't know he's dead. Again, and Robert Monroe's there to tell him, "Hey, you're dead. Go to the light realms. Get out of here. Stop trying to bang this lady. It's creepy." Now this guy's failing to get in between them. He's trying to squish between them, and he keeps falling through the bed onto the floor, which is funny because Robert even says, it's weird. He's falling through the bed, but he's landing on the floor. They're on an apartment up high, so it's like kind of weird he didn't keep falling. I just find that funny as a note. It's all theatrics, but he doesn't know he's dead. He's trying to bang this lady. And Bob even comments on his ghost boner, which I call a ghoul tool or a booner. He can see his fully erect ghost penis, and he comments on it, and it's just hilarious. And he convinces this guy's dead and to get out of there, but it's just crazy because he's not merging with them. He is outside, failing to get in between them. And that is the closest thing to attachment lore I've seen in astral travel lore. The fact that those don't intersect at all, whenever this attachment stuff seems to apply to almost everybody on the planet, anybody with an ailment seems to be having an ailment only due to spirit attachments. And I'm not saying that's not true in a demonic sense to a degree, because I think that they have their hands in all this. I'm not saying they're breaking all of our bones, but I think that they can control to a degree most of this stuff, which is why they're
Yeah.
healing people, because they seem to be able to do so.
Right.
So they don't intersect, and I find that very silly because everything else they push is the same cosmology, the same reincarnation framework. But yeah, that's just a fun example. We're gonna move on to I call this world record grudge holders. Now, this is where, like I said before, 50% of attachments that are ghosts are like random. Oops, fell into your aura or field. Sorry. And the other half are people you knew in a past life or this life that are dead. Now, one example that is really crazy is there was this girl who went in for a session and she starts channeling this guy who's a ghost. Burp. And this ghost that she's channeling is uh, claiming to be her lover in a past life, not her last life, not the one before that, 30 lifetimes ago of her
Oh my
lives.
lord.
Now, I've never I've never been with a woman who made me want to follow her around for hundreds of years in the astral realm, connected to her. I've never met a woman that great, honestly. I've met some cool ladies, some baddies, but I've never met one I'd want to follow for that long. Now, she must have been,
Right.
she must have had something really. Now, here's the thing, 30 of her lifetimes, which means this guy found her and reattached to her after she reincarnated in man, woman, as a baby, as an old person, stayed attached to her no matter what gender, age she was for 30 lifetimes. Now that's a little, and watching her bang dudes for like years and years and years and living through her. Little, I don't know if I buy it. Like now all
Right.
these all
Right.
these ghosts in the past, like I said, are retarded and can't remember who they are, but this guy can hold on to a thought and an obsession for hundreds of years without fail. And you're like, well, how does he reattach to her if she's reincarnating, going to the heaven realms, coming back? Is he going with her? No. He stays on the earth plane the whole time. But when she goes to reincarnate up top and comes back down, it says that he finds her via energy signature. And that's all they say. It's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Energy signature. Okay, sure. He finds her effortlessly every time. Now, the whole thing just sounds goofy to me. And sometimes
Yeah.
they'll say, oh, like if I'm going in for a session and I channel an entity, that entity might say, oh, you murdered me in a past life and now I'm getting subtle energetic manipulation revenge over many years with you. It'll be stuff like that. Like they'll make up a story. Now, for the lady who had the ex lover 30 lifetimes ago, I like to think they cater these stories to things you're more willing to believe and accept. And maybe this lady was really lonely and not getting a lot of dudes in her life. And you
Maybe.
come around with this guy, and you're like, wow, this is so flattering to me, to my ego. This is
Right.
I think they cater these things. It makes sense to what you're more willing to accept because they can read your thoughts, your emotions, your insecurities, etc. They
Yeah.
absolutely will cater to that story. In my head, makes sense. Can't prove it. Oh well. So yeah, it's just a little bit silly to accept all that. Um, somehow accepting that these are demons, masking as characters seems to be harder for many people to believe. So yeah, that's fun. Then there is, this is a big one. Okay. So keep in mind in Carl Wicklund's work, I said how he said all reincarnation memories are from ghost attachments and none of them are from you. Now, this is a quote from Baldwin's work where he says, this is a quote. He says, when a client discovers a disturbing memory, it can be a past life personality, though just as often it is the traumatic death of an attached entity, saying your past life memories can often be from attached entities, and you will relive them like they're your own. You will think they're your own until told otherwise, which is marrying and bridging the lore from Wicklund's work, saying basically, oh, well, maybe Wicklund was just wrong. And yeah, a lot of them were fake, but once you clear out the entities, Baldwin is saying, once you get rid of them and the coast is clear, then you can trust your past life memories as being your own. That's what he's saying. So he says, do SRT first, and then you do past life therapy. So that's bridging the two concepts. And you could say, oh, well, then, Carl Wicklund was just wrong. And he just thought it was all bad when it was just half of it. It was deception. No, because why did these ascended spirits come back that he rescued in the past and channel and say, by the way, I'm in the spirit realm right now. I'm there right now, and it's fake. Why did so many come and tell him that? They're catering to the practitioner to give a coherent lore between the practitioner, but it doesn't have to be coherent between other people. It is always coherent between the person compiling the data, not between vast sources across many decades. Often there will be coherence between certain people, but they'll mix it up for different people and different cultures,
Hmm.
just like they created all these various religions to cater to different cultures over time periods. Am I making sense, brother?
Yes.
So he's admitting many past lives are fake, but you will think they're your own because the experience reliving them is so powerful. And your knowing coming along with it is telling you, oh, I know this is me. So for anybody doing past life regression or getting a past life recovered, just know this is all possible. Now, if these are not who they say they are, if these entities are lying and they are demons, if they are not who they say they are, these are not memories of ghosts. These are totally created made up, fabricated memories that they can make to feel real. Now, when you understand the astral realm is all fake simulation and the control they have, creating a past life memory is easier for them because you don't have autonomy in them. They don't have to allow you autonomy and craft you through it, simulate it in real time. They can just have it downloaded into you at once, and you can relive it. And it's easier, is what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
episode 1, if you need the context there. So that is all important because episode 3 is focusing on reincarnation lore and how it's showing the same patterns here and how it's all fake and gay. So yeah, this is. I'm going to rewind a bit, like I said I was going to do, and discuss whenever demons are captured metaphysically, and I say they go to the light realms after, discovering their spark. After they discover their spark and they convert and they want to help you, before they go to the light realms, typically the practitioner will ask them for a favor. Now, I'll read the thing in a second, but let me find the page. So these demons will be wanting to help. They got a lot of karma that they got to balance now, so they're going to help you out. And you ask them to summon their peers, as many colleagues in the demon realm as they can, and they will do so. Now, the higher level the demon you capture is, the more you'll get, because they say anybody above you won't really listen to you. So if you get a high, medium, high level demon, they'll be able to summon tons and tons and tons of little demons, right? And so I'm just going to read the quote here real quick. Where is it? 71. Yeah. So it says, according to clients in thousands of sessions over the years, it works. As these DFEs rush in, clients describe the scene like a flood of darkness, like a river of lava or thick black oil flowing toward the light. Each DFE is encapsulated in light. Each discovers its spark. Each transforms into light. The rescue spirits of light transport them to their own place in the light. This is an awesome visual image to the client in an altered state of consciousness. So just reiterating, this is a visualization they're getting. They're seeing so many demons show up, potentially millions, that it looks like a thick black oil coming at them in the mind's eye vision because there's so many demons.
So many.
And they're exercising through one patient hundreds of thousands or millions of demons dozens and dozens of times over, maybe hundreds of times. Now, he's exercised collectively millions of demons, it sounds like, in his life. This should be the top target in the world for the demonic agenda to take this guy out, and he seems to be doing very fine. And we'll get into more crazy testimonies, versions of that in a bit, but that is what is being seen in the mind's eye vision, and then they're healed afterwards, so it's all validated. Now, if you have vision control and you have the ability to control someone's ailments, then you can make up a whole story if you want to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's all very doable with what the powers we know they have.
Right.
And then let's see, what time are we at? We're at 1 hour. That's not bad. Okay. Nah, I might skip this. Yeah, there's bonus goofy quotes, but I don't need to read those. It's all pretty goofy. So I don't know if you have any questions for me. I'm about to move into
No,
the
I
next
don't.
course.
Yeah.
You're following? It makes sense?
I am.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I know it gets a little weird. So we're going to move on to William J. Baldwin's second book, which is covering alien stuff exclusively, his alien attachments and the lore that comes along with it, which is really silly. It's called Close Encounters of the Possession Kind. It is the hardest book I've ever spent acquiring. I had to print it from a PDF that took forever to find. If anybody wants the PDF, DM me on Instagram or on X or whatever, and I will send it to them. It is absolutely bananas, and buying it would cost over like $200, I think, when I found it. So I printed it up. It is I know why it's hard to find. If more people read this, they'd be like, "This is bananas. This is a crazy deception." And it's funny because it's closer to the truth than a lot of other sources, but it's still diverging so heavily because what they're pushing is here. They ultimately what they're pushing here is these aliens, which we're about to talk about in detail, are all mostly, I think, all are have their own demonic attachments, and their planets are overrun by demons, dark force entities. So they have to exorcise the aliens of the demons, and then they get rid of the aliens who aren't that bad of guys. So that's what we're about to read.
Wow.
So that's admitting demons control the aliens. That's admitting it, but not in a literal meat suit way, but still in an
Right,
expansive
right.
cosmology way. So they're giving you a closer edge to the truth than anybody else, but they're still diverging. And it's crazy that they did this because I've never seen anybody else really do it like this. Um, I guess I can skip this quote, but I'll basically just summarize it saying that they are, like I said, channeling these aliens who are in bases on ships, channeling them via etheric technological attachments that were attached to these humans, the patients, and they're using it to control their appetites for food, alcohol, sexual activity, just like demons would do. They are making you angry. You know, they're like, "Hey, what happens if the demons or the aliens are like, oh, what's going to happen if we make Jeff beat his wife again? Are they going to get divorced? What's going to happen?" Like as if we don't know what could possibly arise from that. Now,
Right.
now they say it's just for data, and that's what they keep telling him. But at the end of this section, we will clarify it's a bit deeper than that. But we'll get to why that matters in a bit. But they say it's just for research, and they say one quote from the book is in an altered state, a client can visualize the probe, often a black cord leading to the ET laboratory, just like the silver cord of the astral body. It's a black cord for a tech attachment. It's like a crossover there. We direct the question to the alien researcher. This communication passes directly to the ETs along the attached connector, and the surprised ET will always answer through the voice mechanism of the client. This can be surprising and distressing to the client, but with our assurance that the control is only temporary and that many people have overcome this intrusion, most clients continue with the dialogue. So they're consenting to channeling an entity. They don't like it, but they're going to do it. So I'm going to read an excerpt from the book because these are all transcripts and they're direct conversations with aliens. Okay.
Hmm.
I'm going to do the voice of the Dr. Baldwin and the aliens. So I'm going to make it really stupid. I'm going to sound like a retard for a second. Okay. So just make fun of me if you
Awesome.
want.
Perfect.
Yeah, my voice is scratchy. Let's hope this sounds okay. So what's happening here, I'll preface it is, I call this high command through Janet. Now this is one of his first sessions channeling an alien, and he's recorded it. And he is, yeah, Janet's the patient. She's channeling an alien. This is basically the conversation with the alien and what happens. So Baldwin says, "How many such members of the human race have you treated this way?" "About 3,000. This is a violation of an intelligent species. You have no right to interfere this way." "We did not know we were interfering." Drawing from the realm of science fiction, I tried to imagine the organization of such a group of beings. I took a chance and plunged ahead. "Cross-connect us with your headquarters. We want to speak with your high command." A few moments passed and Janet straightened in the recliner. Her voice took on a different tone. The manner was almost imperious. And this is high command now speaking through Janet. They just transferred the call, okay? "Yes, what is it you want?" "Your scientists have placed probes in 3,000 human beings without consent." "Yes, they are gathering data." They are You are gathering data from unwilling subjects. Aren't you aware of the concept of non-interference? There is to be no interference with another sentient species." "Yes, we are aware. We did not mean to interfere, only to gather data." "What would you We are a sentient species. We protest this intrusion." "What would you like us to do?" "We request that you withdraw your probes from every human being on this planet." This was a request, not a demand. I had nothing to enforce such a demand. There was some hesitation, as if there was a discussion being carried on in the background. My skeptical mind asks, if any of this were true, why do they talk to me, and why would they be willing to do what I ask? These questions are always with me in altered state sessions. My skepticism remains alive and well. Shut the fuck up. No, it isn't. I'm sorry. This guy, man, he literally is saying, I don't know why they're doing what I ask, but they are, and they're kind of nice dudes.
They are, and that's cool.
The conversations are just, they're kind of silly, and they all speak English, but it probably translates automatically via
Right.
what
the universal translator.
It's just crazy. And
It's very Star Wars.
Yeah, dude,
Or not Star Wars, Star Trek. Sorry.
I mean, it's of that nature, and
Yeah.
it's just not, it's just a little corny, and they're just so polite. And we'll get into more examples, of course. Yeah, that's an idea of what's happening here. So another one I call, "No, I'm literally your space brother." And this is a conversation. I'm just going to read it. I don't need to explain it. Okay, so he's dealing with an attached entity with this girl patient, and he says, "I suspected an attached entity," which everybody has. Of course you suspect that. Her tears finally subsided, and an entity was able to speak through Carla's voice. It claimed to be her brother in another existence on another planet in a different solar system. He followed her to the system when she chose to come to the planet Earth to incarnate. He did not want to enter the whole process of becoming a human in his own body as she had done. He had bypassed that step. Now, he wanted her to withdraw so that he could live through her body, or at least move aside so he could take over. With very little explanation, he realized the harm he was doing to his sister, whom he loved, yet wanted to dominate in this chauvinistic manner. As he recounted their life on their home planet in a distant space and time, Carla also recalled the love they had shared there and began to weep again, this time for the joy of the memory and the sadness over the loss. This was, in effect, a dual past life regression, both beings remembering the same prior existence on another planet. So this demon is claiming to be her brother from another dimension and is like, I just love you, and that's why I wanted to take over your body and possess you. What? That's creepy. No, it's just chauvinism. That's okay. And then they have a past life memory together on a alien planet where they had a loving time and it was very wholesome. And now she's crying because of how emotional the memory is. And she's like, I forgive you. It's all good, dog. You're my bro. And then he's like, okay, I'll leave. After dedicating a lot of energy to traveling the cosmos to do this.
Right.
He's just like, yeah, sure, okay. So yeah, now she believes it and she's healed. So maybe it's a trade-off. I don't know. It is a creation of a past life memory, or it's a real memory and this is a real brother of hers. Which do you believe? Only one of the two is possible. Just putting it out there. We got more. These are fun. I'm not going to read this one because I don't want to do I don't have a voice ready, but it's silly. But basically, I'll just explain that this is a session with a woman who is reliving an abduction memory. Now, I'm not going to do a whole tangent here, but a lot of abduction memories are fake like these. A lot of them are real. In regression, it's hard to say how. I'm not going to have that conversation right now. I know a lot of them are real. I know a lot of them are fake. They align with conscious memories done without regression too much, but there's deception embedded in these things, and this is something we need to be aware of. It's very complicated. But this woman's reliving an abduction memory. No autonomy in a memory, keep in mind, because you're reliving it. But Baldwin gets this idea, intuitively impressed upon him by demons, probably, and he's like, you know what if I try something out? And he does this a bunch after this, but this is his first one. He says, he asks the woman, her name is Laura? Laura. He asks Laura, hey, try this out. Try in the middle of the memory she's reliving as they're going through it. He's like, hey, try to talk to that alien that's sitting in front of you in the memory. And she goes, okay. And she does. And she starts now she had no autonomy. And now all of a sudden she does. And she's talking to the entity telepathically and getting answers from the alien telepathically because they're telepathic, just like demons. And she basically is conversating, asking why he's doing this, how many people. He's like thousands, more than that probably. And they're saying, oh, we're just gathering data, the same story. God, I'm so gassy today. Sorry. So she's getting answers. They're answering questions very politely, the aliens.
Right.
And she asks if they can, she wants to get rid of her implant. She has an implant. And they're like, and it's a physical one. It's not the etheric ones that they can just disconnect etherically. So
right.
And that might be true.
Right.
That might they have some of those. So she's like, can you get rid of this? And they're like, yeah, we can take it away from you, but you have to come back on board. Do you mind?
Jeez.
And she's like, I'm going to think about that. And Baldwin's like, she can choose that on her own time. But, he doesn't see this as like a potential deception to get consent to come back on board and just, plug probes in her butt or anything. He doesn't even see the option as a deception. He doesn't think any entities out here can deceive you, apparently, except the fake light beings who are demons. I guess that's it. But yeah, so that's a silly story, I thought.
I mean,
and it's doing this whole time travel thing. Like, oh, you were always going to conversate with him metaphysically in the future, so you already did. But then there's this whole alternate timeline lore, and there's so many movies out there programming us for this timeline war thing,
oh my
and
God,
all these time travel movies,
right?
And the logic, when you break down the logic to time travel stuff, it has no coherence. It makes no sense. It does it it doesn't work. And the closest thing to real people say is the show Dark, the German show. I watched that
Mhm.
thing. No comedic relief in that show, by the way. Very, very dark the entire time, literally.
Hence the name.
It's a good show. It's a good show. It's not amazing. It's pretty good, but the time travel stuff, it was closer to more believable, but still made no sense ultimately.
Right.
And we're not going to do a whole conversation there. It'll take forever, but it they're programming us to accept that it's a possibility in all these different ways in so many movies and shows, too many to where it's like all these big budget shows. Who controls these
I
things?
mean, well, they're even doing it on social media now too, where they're
Ye-
bringing back
oh, I see it.
All of Einstein's stuff with talking about gravity and time and spatial displacement, how it's all like, all the stuff, all the things. They're
It's
rolling it back out.
what
So,
is the algorithm promoting at the time of disclosure? It's probably a lot of
it's
baloney.
weird. Hmm.
And the Epstein
Hmm.
files have little nuggets where it's like Epstein was concerned with the effects of time travel in the human body. Just slipping it in there.
Well, and
That much.
even dumbing it down to the point where, I mean, and I've done plenty of episodes on this. I did an episode on NDS about the freaking whole Ingersoll Lockwood Trump time
Yeah.
travel
Oh, they're
Tesla
pushing that
shit.
hard. I didn't know accident.
And I mean, I've done a couple episodes on that, and holy Christ. And so that is still a thing. And it's like, wow, okay.
Yeah, man. They can convince us of anything if they drop little intel leaks through various
Yeah.
sources.
John
Which is
Trump and MIT and Donald's uncle. Yeah, I mean, that's who it is, but it's all that shit with Tesla and all the little breadcrumbs. Doo, doo, doo.
and
Hence the
people.
name of my podcast, Broadcasting Seeds. They just do it with the big spreader where
That's a great point.
I can't keep up with it.
No,
So
I feel you, man. God, I'm allergies today. All right, we're good. We're good.
'tis the season, my friend.
Yeah, man. I'm just glad I don't have my freaking septum deviated anymore because that was that ruined my life for a while. But I'm good. Lord healed me, and doctors. Thank you, doctors.
And doctors.
Um, but yeah, we got a couple more here. There's more in the book for anybody curious. There's way more that I'm not covering today, by the way. So there's if you want to have fun with that.
Can't give it
Um,
all away.
no, I know. I gotta make the people want more. So I got two more. This is the longest of it, quotes wise, but it's important and very silly. I got two more for this section, then we'll jump into Dan Duval, I promise. So we have, I call this Southern hospitality is universal. So this quote says, "We always seek to connect with the highest ranking leader, the commander in chief, the space commander, crew leader, or science officer can be summoned." Summoned phrasing, interesting. And he will respond. This always surprises me. Why do they bother to answer my questions? Lines of communication seem to exist between all members of this alien bureaucracy. As they speak, the client can repeat the words in our language. They may reveal that they are under orders and are part of a fleet of several such craft or similar missions around Earth. They can cross-connect us with the deep space station base headquarters on their homeworld or ruling body, whether it's a military cabal or civilian council. The client can repeat the words of the alien leaders as they respond. In an altered state, this kind of channeling is easily accomplished. In a number of cases, the base commander has acknowledged the intrusion and agreed to remove the technicians, the equipment, probes, communication devices, any implants, etc. They seem eager to do this and offer an apology for the interference, often a request for forgiveness, and a hearty thank you for the new awareness regarding their fruitless research efforts. So these huge, big budget alien researchers traveling the cosmos to do this are just asked politely to leave, and they all seem to just not hang up on this man. They
Huh.
transfer the call to whoever is necessary and seem to do whatever is asked every time. So, do you
Yeah.
believe that, or do you believe my thing? I don't know. I don't know. And now this one is the longest, and it's the craziest. So let's have some fun here. It says, "The technician simply turns up the volume on some aspect of human emotion or behavior and records what happens with the human subject. This behavior or emotional outburst causes anguish in the human. This is the desired result. The anguish is the underlying goal of the project. The energy emanation of anguish of human suffering is harvested by the DFEs which control the aliens. It is used as energy, sustenance, food. It seems the experiment is a cover for the activity of the DFEs. This is the true purpose of the research conducted by the aliens. Now, pause for a second. They're saying loose harvesting is the main goal here. It's a Gnostic concept. They're saying, it's the whole astral travel brochure that Rob Monroe got pushing the loose harvest. That is and a lot of people get this thing, that the main reason for dark lower astral entities, the whole goal for them is, or archons, is getting resources. Your anguish is not because they want to make you suffer and bring you away from Christ or anything like that. No, it's all about resources. That's all they really care about. It's not that nefarious. That is a cover up for demonic activity, which is obvious in our world today. It is saying it's for resources. It's more neutral than anything. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
I do.
So it's like close to the truth, but still enough distance to where you're not going to come to Christianity over it if you believe it,
Right.
which is obviously the main goal here. Now, continuing, he says, in most such cases of ET attachment where such a group is operating, the ship captain or the base commander may be evasive, deceitful, even defiant, and refuse to remove the intrusive devices and alien beings. Now, this is where they then exercise the demon from them, and then they do what you ask. So it's kind of ridiculous. So, and it says they will usually divulge information that there is a high dark being who controls their people. A client will usually describe a sinister and menacing dark figure on the craft, clearly exerting powerful control and always situated near the ship's captain. Consistent visualizations going on here, the whole
Yeah.
thing. The ET technician is usually unaware of the dark influence. The commander of the spacecraft is conscious of the dark presence in only about half of such cases. The ruling council members on the homeworld, which they're transferred to instantly whenever they ask, are aware of the dark lords in charge at various levels. They acknowledge that they or their predecessors in the council struck an alliance with dark forces long ago for the purpose of gaining personal and political power. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
However, once that dark contract was established, the DFEs took power over the council. The DFEs assume ownership of the alien civilization, and there was nothing that could be done about it until this guy shows up. So, the council members usually range from 3 to 11 in number, though once it was reported a Senate of 1,800 members. Okay, cool. They're grateful for the assistance in separating themselves and their citizens from the DFEs. With the assistance of many light beings, we facilitate the total removal of the DFEs from the lowliest DFE attached to the ET technicians through the dark lords on the craft to the high-level dark beings wielding power over the council members and the overseers or enforcers who lurk behind the scenes. After the release of the DFEs from their civilization, their entire civilization, the Council gladly orders the removal of the implants, monitors, communication devices, various and assorted headbands and skull caps, and the ET technicians. They order the return of craft of orbiting this world and any other, and the space stations involved in this hideous project. A tremendous piece of work is completed in a very short time. The effect on consciousness cannot be measured. Okay. Baldwin is exercising entire planets dozens of times. Are you having a
Yeah.
heart attack?
No, it's just like
Isn't this crazy?
I'm laughing. I keep laughing at the vernacular.
Dude, it's
The Dark Lords and it just reminds me so much of like Star Wars, dude. Like the whole anyway.
no, that is exactly what they're doing. They're giving us this expansive cosmology and all these characters. And if you're
Yes.
exercising planets dozens of times without fail of these alien civilizations, and there still are aliens abducting people today and still doing all this research, how? And you've exercised millions of demons through that other process of group entity release. How many are left? And why are you not the top
I'm
target to be?
wondering where all the demons are coming from. So like
I mean, I know where I believe they came from, but there's a finite amount, and if this guy's exercising
exactly. We've talked about
many
this in the last
millions,
episode. But
yeah,
I don't
the
know.
whole.
I guess we're talking about,
Well,
Nephilim
if you got
on
old Earth,
multiple planets. Right?
yeah, if you got old Earth, you can make it infinite.
Yeah.
Now I don't
And
believe
it's a time loop. It's a time loop.
There you go. Alternate timelines too, alternate Earths. You got all these things. Now I'm a young Earther, and it makes everything a lot cleaner in the grand scheme of things. But
Yeah, of course. Right.
watch Hydroplate Theory, Brian Nichols' video on YouTube if you're a hater, because
I
it's
gotta write that down again.
pretty all encompassing there.
Hydroplate
Hydroplate, Brian Nichols' video. It's not his theory, but he redid it, and it's Tim Waltz. I think Tim Waltz. No,
don't ever say that name.
no, it's Tim. Shit, what is it? I have it right there. I can't reach it.
Brian what? What's his name? Brian
Nichols, like a
Nichols.
like a
Okay.
literal nickel.
Gotcha.
Yeah, watch that, please. It is gonna blow your mind. It's a little boring, but it's like you're gonna be
Well,
sweating
that's
in
fine.
the whole
Half the
time.
shit I do is boring.
Yeah, right.
So
It's
I'm
boring
just
if
I'm
you're a
just wondering because I follow the destruction cycle stuff
dude,
pretty closely. So
they explain the magnetic anomalies that seem to show this 6,000-year repeat
yep,
cataclysm.
six, the
That is
12s, all the
That is
different.
all explained in a young Earth context with hydroplate theory in a much cleaner
Okay,
way, and explains
wow,
all the old Earth seeming anomalies that we have in the cleanest way ever. And I can't summarize it, and I won't try to. I'll butcher it, but it is pretty mind blowing. All the magnetic anomalies are explained, and if we're wrong, and it is every 6,000 years, then God is kind of a liar a little bit with the whole Adam and Eve thing. So, which I
yeah,
do not buy into that, and I'm not just reworking it to make it fit my biblical understanding.
yeah, got you.
I came from old Earth as a Christian. I came from
Right.
it and did a lot of research. Read Earth's Catastrophic Past by Andrew Snelling if you want additional lore on that and Noah's Ark and how that was all very possible scientifically. There's a lot there. So, yeah, we're done with the whole New Age stuff. That was convoluted and long, I know, but it has to be the bedrock because what we're going through with Dan Duval now is the same process. It's visions, it's entity channelings, it's healings, and it's the same process, same types of characters, not all of them, no ghosts, but they're all healing, but they cannot coexist because they're giving different frameworks. So I will just start with saying there is a big difference here is Dan will ask Jesus and angels to make themselves present in the mind's eye vision, the inner world of the patient, and they will always show up and they're there to help. So Jesus shows up. And like we know, they admitted already in the New Age stuff that they can impersonate Christ. Already admitted they will do that. So he thinks they can't do that. There's like some law against it, but there's no law against it. And
All right.
all right, as a prequel to that, that is going to be one of Dan's prayers, his renouncement prayers for councils, which is pretty fun. Before we get there, I got to talk about Cosmic Soul Trafficking Cartel, which is he talks about this a lot. I guess in a lot of his podcasts. Now, he says, we kept getting stories about parts that were pulled out of body, put on cosmic trade routes, and trafficked to these realms. And we're having to go to these locations in the spirit world, in the mind's eye vision, with Jesus and break soul parts, spirit fragments out of dungeons, prisons, laboratories, and glass containers, and all kinds of stuff. And people are getting set free and delivered. And now they can sleep. And now their finances are working. That is a quote from him on the Deep End episode, Dark Side of Deliverance, 55 minutes, 30 seconds in, if you don't believe me. These are all going to be interview and podcast and live lecture quotes, by the way. So it's going to be a little bit more sloppy and fun. So he says these soul fragments will be in interplanetary areas, trafficked by aliens to different species in exchange for tech, not like money. And sound familiar? And he says another quote he says is, some of them are like concentration camps. We have found soul fragments that have been trafficked to mining operations off planet. If you know the secret space program lore, he's doing a direct correlation, a bridge to secret space program Gnostic lore. He also says he'll find them at the rings of Saturn and Orion and Pleiades, which they are traveling to these places in the mind's eye vision remote viewing style of the patient. Dan is not seeing this. He's doing prayers on the outside and getting relayed information from the telepathic encounters with the patient and the entities involved in the mind's eye vision. Another funny quote is, this is him saying, they'll be like, Daniel, Jesus is showing me a mining operations right off a Sirius colony. I see some people there, and he's saying that's me. Okay, well, I guess we should go there and get you back. So these are the words he's using to describe it. I will add, there is, in the SRT lore we already covered, I cannot find any mention of a organized trafficking cartel, which Dan Duval has said he's encountered over 100 times. There is soul fragmentation, yeah, and they transfer and people take them and they do stuff with it, but there's no organized trafficking cartel that's like a big operation like he's talking about, which is, I just find an interesting little add-on they probably prefaced or gave to him as opposed to these other characters. Yeah, so then we're gonna get to the council breaking stuff, and we'll play that video in a minute. I'm gonna read one part first. So when talking about these councils, he's talking about addressing them to renounce over activity from demons that they're overseeing. And when he's dealing with a demon, he's not sending them to the light after this is over. He's casting them down to the pit. It is the same metaphysical, command, but just the other side of it. So he's casting them down to the pit. Okay, so that's the big difference. He says there are usually councils of 3 or 5 or 9, and if you want to watch my short on YouTube, actually watch that because he names a lot of silly councils like Reptilian Council, Octopus Council, Council for Alternate Earth, Council of Scotland's a funny one out of nowhere, but a bunch of silly ones. Council of Anunnaki, stuff like that. He says all that. Ascended Masters, even. He says behind these things, giving them governmental authority. So instead of renouncing individual things, we started renouncing whole councils, asking, what are the councils overseeing this activity? Some evil councils worked for DARPA or a 3-letter agency or satanic group. Sometimes it was a spiral council of ascended masters. I didn't know the Bible was okay with that existing. That's weird. Once we started to address the councils governing bodies, we started to see major breakthroughs in people. So what we're about to listen to is my audiobook, which is using a funny voice for Dan Duvall, of course, Master Shake from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I got, and it's gonna be parts of his prayers addressing councils and what he says, so you can see this is what he thinks Jesus wants us to do. Now, keep in mind the councils they're talking about is being seen in the mind's eye vision. Conversations with these councils in the mind's eye vision. And they're being told by these councils like, oh, you've been assigned to this since birth, or they're showing him a contract. They'll say things like that. The video this is from is How to Challenge Evil Councils with Dan Duvall, so look it up. If you want to start it, it's at the 2 hour, 9 minute, 10-second mark. And if you want to play it till about, I'll let you know, but play it till about 2 hours, 11 minutes, and 57 seconds. We'll stop around there. So just, if you want to use a bathroom break, this is a good opportunity, guys. Or for you.
I'm going to make sure that you can hear it.
Yeah.
You're about to witness
Can you hear it?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Perfect.
maximum buffoonery in its most potent form. Here are some key excerpts.
Father in heaven, I come boldly before your throne of grace to find mercy and grace to help in time of need. I enter into your gates with thanksgiving, and I enter into your courts with praise. I hide myself in Christ Jesus, and from this secret place, I perform this renunciation and divorce. I command that every gate, frequency, barrier, equation, cloaking device, force field, sacred geometry, DNA matrix, apex of time, formula, defensive protocol, and any other form of unholy technology that would otherwise hinder progress, conceal ungodly agents, agendas, and slash or activities in relation to this renunciation and divorce of
Blank.
would be deactivated, disengaged, and moved out of the way, including all connected bombs, tripwires, and booby traps.
Apex of time really had me shitting for real. Duvall then continues with renouncing connections.
I renounce my tethering to, overlaying and interfacing with, and all existence as the group and all portals that are the group and all associated gates, paths, channels, forces, genetic and cellular anchoring data packets, ungodly DNA strands, bone marrow, assignments, blood, plasma, markers, meridian lines, chakras, energy signatures, neural lace, all related powers of darkness, quantum technologies, oversouls, and any other type of malevolent being.
Shoot. I was worried he was gonna forget the bone marrow. That was major. Followed with a calling for judgment.
I now call for every algorithm or formula created from the listener's DNA and genetic material that is projected throughout the group to be shut down in every age, realm, dimension, frequency, vibration, and timeline, past, present, and future, to infinity. I command the immediate apprehension of all hybrids and every cosmic, artificial intelligence and technology behind those projections, and call for viruses encoded with heavenly algorithms to be uploaded into them and their computers in order to destroy them in judgment. I curse their computers with a curse of non-existence.
Got him. Take that. And that.
You can end it there.
I love that you curled the R's. And a couple sauces.
The audiobook is absolutely crazy. The voice you were hearing after that is the main voice for the majority of the book, and it's actually my roommate doing it, and then he didn't finish it, so I had an AI finish it because he was taking forever. So I recorded his voice with it, and it did a great job. So
amazing.
I put a lot of work into that thing, though. So yeah,
awesome.
that's his prayer, one of his prayers, one of many.
Yeah, I've read some of his on his website, and yeah, man. It's
advertised accurately.
Get pretty in depth.
Now, he's being very thorough. I didn't know our prayers had to be so specific and thorough to all these very insane, outlandish, non-biblical concepts.
Bone marrow.
Dude, that one's my favorite. Yeah. He has plenty of goofy stuff we could pinpoint in that realm of just naming off things, listing everything under the sun. When he's doing councils, he names like 60 councils in a row. And then he says, and I want every one of these councils to be one, like under the moniker of the group. So then he addresses them as the group as further. But the group is any of these 60, 70 plus councils he mentions, which the names for them are so outlandish sometimes. And these are all councils of actual beings all over the universe and timelines and etc. So yeah, that's the guy we're dealing with here. And now I want to get a little bit more blasphemous here. So he talks about in Deep End, the Battle for Human Souls episode, an hour and 19 minutes in. If you don't believe me, he's relaying a conversation. He's telling a story. So this is him verbatim, but he's retelling it. So he's saying he had a conversation with Jesus because he's had many, channeling through the patient, of course. And he's saying, is Phil, which is the patient's altar that is he's been channeling, he's asking who it is. So he says, is Phil actually a part of this patient's identity? And Jesus says, no. He goes, is Phil an angel? And Jesus says, yes. You mean to tell me I've been getting dynamics of programming, altars, and how to address certain issues explained to me over months by an angel? After that, I started to meet many more, and other people that I would sit down with would have different angels that would come forward. So just like William J. Baldwin getting his information how to do this by light beings, Dan Duvall, a Christian, is getting his information on how to do this by Jesus and angels after many months of channeling them, which he won't call it channeling, but it is. That is interesting. So his methodology, which is the same thing as this other practice, but non-Christian, is getting it from different entities, not light beings, angels and Jesus, which you could say they're the same thing, and they're just calling it something different. But Jesus is showing up, and he's
calling it Dark Lords.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, a little on the nose evil for sure. But yeah, this is explicit channeling in my opinion. But that's an opinion, of course, legally speaking. So channeling Jesus and angels must be a pretty powerful dude. Another weird thing Dan Duvall talks about is the altars situation, which we covered already. But he says how whenever finding these altars, he asks Jesus to heal them. Like if it's a 6-year-old traumatized you, you'll see it in your mind's eye as a 6-year-old version of you, and they'll talk like that when you channel them or telepathically communicate. And he will ask Jesus to heal them, and he will. And then you'll ask them to reintegrate. And it's like a consent thing you have to verbally say, or in your mind, I guess you could do it. Now, if it's not who they say they are, and this is a demon masking, then you're giving demons merging rights to further merge with you, which full possession, I think, takes a lot more work. A couple more, you have to really, really, really like know you're consenting to possession. That's what people say whenever they've been fully possessed afterwards. They say, yeah, I kind of knew I was admitting to that. They don't have to know you're a demon, but they have to know it's full possession, and you have to accept that. So merging deeply and getting influenced is less invasive, but still very much so. And that's what's going on here. So not only does he do that, but he talks about his own. So he talks about it for altars, but he also talks about it for your spirit. You have to merge with your spirit and ask it to invite it in to merge with you. Now, I don't know in the Bible where it says to ask your spirit to merge with you, which is a separate entity from yourself, akin to a Christian higher self, basically, is the same concept.
Yeah.
And he talks about him doing this, and I'll just retell the story. He, not verbatim, but pretty close. He basically says in an interview, I think in his early days of the ministry, when he was first getting started, he was encountered by an entity who made its presence known invisibly, but he felt it. He said he could feel that it was a 12-foot tall entity, Nephilim height, standing in front of him. And he says he just felt its presence, which is, if they're merged with you, they can impress upon you quite strong, intuitive, perceptions. And he says he thought he was about to hear it speak from above him, coming his head being through the roof because his, apartment was like, shorter than this 12-foot tall entity. And he thinks he's about to hear it talk to him, and he does, but it's not coming from above, but from within himself, from his heart. And he feels that. And so it's already merged with him quite a bit. And he says that the entity is saying things to him that him and Jesus talked about earlier, and that he documented in his prayer journal. And how would any nefarious entity know what him and Jesus talked about, of course? And he's basically saying, I'm your spirit, I'm part of you. And I don't know if he told him to or if Dan Duvall's idea, but the idea was probably impressed upon him otherwise. But he eventually he invites it to come dwell within him, his spirit, his own spirit, which he's conversating with like it's in a separate entity. And it does. And it is gladly doing so. And he said after this happened, his spiritual drought has never been encountered again. He's always been able to access information since then and access other people's spirits and channel them. Now, he teaches all his students to do this. He says, if you integrate with your spirit, quote, your prayer journal will begin to look like the book of Revelation. What is that? He doesn't elaborate what that means, but it sounds like you're getting prophecies or precognitive type stuff from spirits. Is that your spirit that you need to ask to merge with you, which the Bible doesn't mention at all? Why does he not mention at all that I've heard any deceiving spirits masking as your spirit, even coming by and pretending to be your spirit so that you merge with a demon? He never even mentions the possibility of that. I don't think he believes demons can or will mask as other entities, especially because it may be channeling where they will, but if you see it in your mind's eye, a mind's eye vision that might be completely controlled, there's no way they can fake that, right? Because if he admits that, he has to admit, quite a bit is problematic with his work. So, am I making sense here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, bet. So, yeah, he teaches his students to do this, and that's where I saw him as really problematic, because not only is he getting people indoctrinated into the occult with a fake healing practice that doesn't really truly protect them afterwards, but now he's asking people to merge with demons. And that is very, very, very problematic if he's teaching hundreds of people to teach their new patients to do this. I am very concerned about that. So I don't want everybody. This is a pyramid scheme for possession. This is what's going on, in my opinion. So I think we need to start talking about it. I'm the only one talking about it, it seems.
Yeah.
I don't know why. So yeah, there is more. This is not in my book because I didn't find this till afterwards, but I wrote it in my book, so I didn't forget. This is a quote of him on the confessionals, the one named about the cosmic soul trafficking cartel. And at 2 hours, 5 minutes, 33 seconds, he says, there is a holy way to engage with the astral plane in the spirit world that does not require demonic practices. I spend a lot of time in Christ maneuvering things in the second heaven realm. We are changing lives, destinies, timelines. Now, I already covered in episode 1 how the astral realm is fake, and what we're seeing is not real. Maybe this Christian guy is going to the real astral plane, sure. Why not? But doesn't the Bible say not to do this? But no, he's chosen by God to do this. It's different. He says there's a holy way to do it. He doesn't say how that is. He doesn't say how it's holy, but he says there's a holy way to do it, and it doesn't require demonic practices. I mean, meditation into out of body that's demonic, but what are you doing that's so different? He doesn't say. He says it's with Christ. Jesus is with him. Not an entity masking as Jesus, because they never do that. So he admits to being an astral traveler. He just calls it the second heaven instead of the astral plane. So it's
right.
It's better. And I've seen people go on confessionals and talk about being an astral traveler chosen by God to intercess on the astral plane for other people. And he's like, yeah, we're not supposed to do this. Yeah, I agree. The Bible says. But when you're chosen by God, we got to fight black magic with white magic, basically, is what he says. And he says he was chosen.
What does he say that second heaven's basically like the battle zone,
Yeah, and I'm not saying there's no spiritual warfare out there with entities in a real realm, but what we're seeing in our visions, in our astral travel, I think is all simulation. And they're catering Christian versions to Christians. But it's still making you do divination and making you think it's okay. and you're always batting 1,000 in these realms. You might have some little fight put up against you, but people talk about getting astrally attacked in all these scenarios, and they always come out winning. You ever hear someone getting astral attacked and they end up getting totally screwed over and something bad happens? Maybe for a moment, but they end up winning every time.
Yeah.
And they're always going to let you win. They're going to put up a fight and make it seem real, though. So he admits to astral travel. I just find that pretty insightful with everything else going on here because he's a full on occultist. In my opinion, lawyers, shut up. Then there is now. I mentioned this earlier how I believe he might be voice channeling with these people. I opinion, I don't know, but he does say it. So this is a quote from him on Dark Side of Deliverance, episode of Deep End, and he says, "We encourage the spirit to come forward and the spirit to be present, and then I start asking the spirit questions. Sometimes the spirit comes to the session and it actually has memories, talking about pre-Adamic memories, which we'll talk about in a minute, not past life memories, pre-Adamic spirit memories. We'll get back to that. He says sometimes Jesus is pulling the veil back on amnesia for the spirit, and the memory is coming in real time as we're working through something, and the spirit will either begin to show the soul the memory no and the spirit will either begin to show the soul the movie of what took place or tell me outright with the person's mouth. One of the ways the spirit is communicating to me is history and what happened, sometimes with deep shame." So he just said with the person's own mouth. That sounds like he's saying channeling and he slipped up and he didn't mean to say that. I don't know. Maybe he didn't mean to say it. It just he might have Freudian slipped in an accidental or a literal way. Do what you will with that information. But he says that Jesus is pulling back the veil of amnesia, and then they're seeing a movie of their past life as a spirit in the pre-Adamic, which we're about to get into. So, and it's like, oh, it's in real time, and I'm like, yeah, they have real time control of the astral. This is nothing for them. Your prompting seems to instigate whatever you are, wanting to find.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. What am I missing? Oh yeah. So we'll get into the pre-Adamic stuff in a minute, but real quick, I want to go over more theatrical elements of this vision control stuff and give you examples of how silly it is. One story he talks about, he says that he's with a patient and the patient is describing what he's seeing in the mind's eye vision. And the client sees, as Dan is doing prayers, Dan's spirit, the one that he invited in earlier, the 12-foot guy, the Nephilim-sized guy, he says that he sees his spirit in full armor running after a fire demon, a giant fire demon that is in this mind's eye vision, and he starts punching the shit out of this fire demon in the face over and over. So Dan is like, heck yeah, we got him. And then for the next 15 minutes or so, him and Jesus are doing prayers on the outside, right? So 15 minutes go by, and the client says, Dan, you'll never guess what? Your spirit is still punching the fire demon in the face for the past 15 minutes straight, and he's been unconscious for this whole time. In the spirit, these spirit beings, he's knocked unconscious, and he's been punching him in the spirit for 15 minutes. I didn't know spiritual warfare worked like that. I know there's some level of physicality to it, but I didn't know it was just punching the shit out of it over and over and over and over and over for 15 minutes. That's badass, yeah, but is it real? And Dan gets the most smug, self-satisfied look on his face and is like, yeah, that's right. He's telling the story and he's loving it. He's loving it. He feels so powerful. Another crazy story, this might be the most retarded one you'll ever hear me talk about, is where he talks about, these fragments, the child altars that are found in the mind's eye vision in the inner world. And instead of immediately integrating them, for some reason, Jesus will show up and have a new idea. And it says that these childlike altars of you, which are 6, 7, 8 years old, something, maybe older, will be gifted water guns by Jesus. And they'll see this in the mind's eye vision. And these water guns are filled with living water. And whenever demons show up now in the inner world, the altars will spray the demons with the water guns with living water and scare them off. And they will see this in the mind's eye vision. So,
water,
dude, it's crazy. The demons are getting really ballsy with how ridiculous they're making. They're making it unnecessarily expansive at times. I'm just like, you're really risking a lot with these details. But again, if you can fully control visions in every aspect of it, this is not difficult for them to do, and it's really stupid. I don't know why Jesus would do that. I think he would just slap him out of here. He doesn't waste time with water guns, and
Right.
it's dumb. I don't like it. So, oh my gosh, I need to. We are on pre-Adamic memories now. In the SRT work, in the past life regression work, these are new age concepts where people access their past life memories. We already found out a lot of them are fake if you have an entity attachment, or they're not fake, but they belong to that entity, and you just can't tell the difference unless you figure out they're all gone. So Dan Duval doesn't believe in past lives. He's Christian. Why would he push
Right.
that? But he does believe in pre-Adamic stuff, and he believes this because his own encounters spiritually. Now, they are accessed the same way as past life memories, and they also share the common theme of if you relive it and you remember it, you can heal from the trauma it causes you in this life. So in your past life, whether it be spirit, pre-Adamic, or a literal new age past life memory, if you relive the death or relive a traumatic memory of it, it'll heal you in this life of something. And he also says that in your past, before you came to incarnate, past life memories and pre-Adamic both say you chose how hard or easy your life was going to be based on what kind of reward you wanted. A harder life yields a higher reward spiritually, etc. Same laws for karmic balancing in the pre-life plan of past life memories, which in part 3 I cover extensively, the lore there. He says some of these pre-Adamic memories, a lot of them he's encountered, are of spirit memories where the person is being abducted by fallen angels and demons, pre-Adamic fallen angels and demons, because demons only exist after the flood, as far as I'm concerned. But old Earth, infinite, whatever. They abduct people and make them forcibly hybridize in the spirit sexually with fallen angels to make pre-Adamic Nephilim. So that explains where they came from and how they've been doing this for a while.
Mhm.
That's a memory he's accessed many, many, many times. So he came across these pre-Adamic memories initiated by a vision he had. And in this vision, it's like a dream vision, very vivid. He is encountered by a portal, which he goes through in this dream. And this portal takes him to space, and he's in the middle of space. And a giant scroll opens up and starts fanning past him like the freaking Star Wars intro. And he's reading a lot of it, but missing more of it. It's going very fast, so he's only getting chunks and little pieces. And he says that he's reading about pre-Adamic wars, pre-Adamic conflict, pre-Adamic, just history in general, acts of betrayal, acts of heroism, etc. And he's just getting bits and pieces, not a cohesive narrative. And I feel like they don't want to give him a cohesive narrative because it'll sound too silly, so they're just kind of giving him little chunks. He says after this, he's transported to speak with the Holy Spirit, and he feels really good and feels love and feels good energy, which demons aren't capable of doing, of course. And he says that the spirit is basically conveying to him that this is his new mission, is to uncover the pre-Adamic memories. And after this, he begins to access all of them throughout people. And he gets his own pre-Adamic memory, which we'll get to that in a second. So the Holy Spirit is conveying this message of this is your job now, is to get this involved in your healing, because people need to know. Even though the Bible didn't tell us, but we need to know. But I didn't tell you in the Bible. Interesting. And it increases the old Earth stuff and validates that, which is a bridge to the Gnosticism. So what am I missing? So yeah, he shares his own pre-Adamic memory as a general. And I'm going to read this. This is a quote from an interview where he was stuttering quite a bit, and I'm going to try to keep the stuttering in it. So this is intentional, by the way. He says, "My job in the pre-Adamic age was a general. I actually ran a military campaign, and early on in that military campaign, and this came by way of memories. Like I actually started to remember some of this stuff. We had a lot of challenges. Like there was a lot of betrayal and a lot of shiftiness, and people that were part of those military campaigns, the spirits, they were not loyal. They were defecting. They all kinds of stuff. So it was like chaos, and it was a process and a difficult process of tightening the ship so that we could shut down that activity and really hit a slipstream of success as we were doing, really fighting for the Lord. And then in those pre-Adamic wars, well, lo and behold, I come into this world and then like it's time to start a ministry. So what did I experience in those early days of the ministry? Like every time we got even going for just like a few months with an employee, there was an implosion. I couldn't get a team of core support around me for years. So that's a real quote. He said he was a general, and then he said there was a lot of shiftiness and problems and no details, just very, very vague. And he's stuttering, and I think he knows he shouldn't be talking about this because the way it's
Yeah,
portrayed.
because I mean, I'm sorry, but like, I mean, I understand people like they want the source to be scripture and prayer and discernment, right? And the Holy Spirit. Like that's one category, right? But
Yeah.
if the source of this stuff and this what you just read hit every one of these. The source becomes hidden memories, inner voices, spirit dialogue. This is from remember I was telling you that episode I was working on.
Yeah.
Spirit dialogue, pre-Adamic experiences, alien group intel, right? Or like realm-based revelations.
It's a
Then
bridge
you're
for
in
Christians. Yeah,
then you are in a risky spot, my friend. Like I'm sorry.
absolutely.
That does not it doesn't automatically prove deception, but it absolutely demands testing. And I don't hear him testing anything.
No. And there's no potential
And he
for
never
deception.
talks about testing anything. I mean, come on, guys.
No.
1 John 4:1,
I think
test the
it's
spirits. Like, come on.
I think it's the vision thing. I think he think these visions can't be faked, and if
Oh
he
my God. And I don't see how that's possible. I mean,
No, listen, I
how
know.
many times do we get warned in the Bible with John and Deuteronomy and Isaiah, Kalash? We get Corinthians. We get freaking warned constantly.
Yeah,
Warnings against divination and sorcery and all this shit. And he's touching on every single point.
he likes to focus on the more validating his own cosmology stuff. You know, he likes
Yeah,
to
and
focus on those verses.
I just don't see how the people that like, I don't know, man. I mean, I've always kind of just gone, I don't really like this guy's, what he's saying is like kind of whatever. And
Well, it's
man,
more than whatever. It's a whole operation.
it's
from
way,
demons,
it's a
you know
whole
what I mean?
operation.
So it's very elaborate. And, regarding the whole pre-Adamic stuff, it's important to note that he addresses, I don't have this in my book because I'm stupid and I didn't notice it till afterwards, but I wrote it down. He addresses past life memories and how people access those. And because he doesn't say they're fake visions from demons. No, of course not, because the implications on his work would be insane. So he says he believes that they are having real memories. No, those are real memories they're accessing. And they're not from ghost attachments because there's no ghosts, so you can't say that.
Yeah.
So how do you explain them? He says they are ancestrally locked in the DNA from their ancestors, and they're activating their parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, etc., those memories. Now, to believe that means you've done 0 minutes, not even 2 minutes of research in the reincarnation lore, because that would mean every past life memory has to be from in your genetic line. Now, a lot of them are, sure, but the vast majority are outside the family. When compiling the most comprehensive data of reincarnation in Ian Stevenson's work of 2,500 plus cases, using no regression, just all children accessing them from the ages of 2 to 6, which, by the way, I cover in part 3 extensively, because they're less likely to lie and make up stories, and it seems more believable because they're remembering them without, a divination practice. Now, it's still a downloaded memory from a demon, in my opinion, but how they got there is a complicated process, which not super complicated, but we'll talk about that in part 3 if you want to do. But to be DNA locked memories, that means all of these past lives have to be within your DNA line, within your family, and the vast majority are within 100 miles away in a stranger's family. Now, a lot of them are outside 100 miles away, but they want to keep you close so they can come bring the child to meet that family and then verify details by downloading, oh, you know this person from this way, and you know where your that secret drawer was with that money in it, blah blah blah. Like they remember things of their past life, and if you're doing this practice and you're believing this, you're giving consent to demons to download information to you as you do this to give you validated information that makes it seem legit. That's what I think is going on is downloads from demons, and which are validating this kid's past life memories and what goes along with it. So the vast majority are 100 miles away, and the breaks in between incarnations are between 1 to 5 years in the vast majority of cases. Sometimes sometimes 20, sometimes more, but usually under 5 or 3 years. A year and a half is the average between your last death and your next life. Now, that means that if you're reliving a memory, it has to be from your grandparent, your great grandparent, or somewhere beyond that in your line. But most of these past lives people are living are not like distant past lives. Some of them are, yeah, but most of them are your last past life, which means it has to be like your grandpa or your great grandpa to make any sense. And none of them are. Maybe a few, but like almost none of them are. They're all from strangers in different families, 100 miles away, 50 miles away, 20 miles away, but in the same culture usually, but in a different total family with a different bloodline. And it just doesn't make any sense with the data. What he said isn't supported by the data at all. So the only other explanation is it's a ghost attachment, which may or may not be real, or it's a demon impressed false memory, which you can't say that as Dan Duval because then that blows up your whole operation. So it's just, and he gets no pushback for these statements in the comment section or anywhere. No one did any research. I read all the reincarnation books out there, or a lot of them, and it doesn't validate.
I mean, at the very least, not openly channeling, let's say, by his own stated framework, right? But spiritually high risk, to say the least, and at best channeling adjacent.
Well, we consider Ouija boards channeling, right? It's the same thing, but more invasive because it's involving this vision aspect and merging with these entities. So I count it as channeling. He just doesn't want to call it that because it sounds occult, but it is entirely. You know, the false vision alone, unless these visions are real, but that means Jesus and all these visions and angels are teaching him stuff, and I just don't buy it along with the SRT crossover work. So it just doesn't make any sense how they are all healing people, at least temporarily. But they are. There's
definite legitimate discernment concerns with what he's doing.
Now, if anybody's listening is not convinced of anything I'm saying, which would be insane, go on Facebook if you want, and you don't have to, but there's a Facebook group called Victims of Daniel Duval and Bride Ministries, which last time I checked had like 210 plus members, and this is a Facebook group of people dedicated to people who had really bad experiences with him, or maybe it was a good healing, and then afterwards their spiritual warfare came back harder because they aren't actually protected after this. And these are testimonies.
If anything, maybe they're opened up even more. So,
no, they are, because they're doing divination and they're believing expansive. They definitely are opened up more. And these are people who have repented of it and they understand that they were deceived, but that's just the people in a Facebook group. How many people are not in a Facebook group that are, have a gripe with him? I don't know. But the fact that that exists warrants some investigation, which I've already done. So I think it all aligns. And, we're coming up on the outro material, but I do want to read a Bible verse, which I think is incredibly relevant here because I haven't read enough Bible today, as we can tell. But this verse I think was made for Dan Duval. And people like him. It is Matthew 7:22-23, and it says, many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, and done many wonders in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. This is telling you in a Bible verse, there will be people who believe they are casting out demons for the Lord, for Yahweh. They think that they are, which means they must be healing people, or at least temporarily, because how else would they believe that they're casting out these demons? So it means there must be false healings that demons are making you think are true in the name of God, but they're not. These New Age healings don't apply because they're not in the name of the Lord. But this applies to people in the Christian framework. This is exactly describing what Dan Duval is doing perfectly. And it's not giving you a ton of details, but it's giving you enough to know this could only mean false exorcists who are getting tricked by demons. And we'll talk about exorcists, real deal, deliverance, not this expansive stuff in a minute, but I don't know if you had any thoughts on that and how that all, I think, makes sense.
What was it again? Matthew what?
7:22-23. So that verse is directly describing this exact situation.
It sounds like it to me.
Yeah. I don't know who else it would be talking about. It talks about
Yeah.
fake exorcists.
Yeah. Right.
Um, let's see. And that's the end of Dan Duval material. Yeah, I guess I'll touch on ancient shamanism for a second, which I addressed a little bit earlier. Um, this is their ancient shamanic practices, which are more, third world and convoluted. They do the whole astral travel, soul fragment recovery by traveling in the astral and going to recover soul fragments. Instead of just metaphysically commanding them return, they are venturing there in a potentially fake simulation and then returning it to the individual and healing them. So it's the same concept, different mechanism, but it's all vision oriented. Um, and they use trance states with patients to contact and channel their various NHI, often their ancestors. The ancestor thing is part of the more third world groups, not other groups, and
Yep.
ascended masters. And their role is healing. They are diagnosing spiritual causes for diseases. They're banishing or negotiating with spirits to restore health. Is always involving a channel, theatrical banishing or retrieval of soul fragments. And modern anthropologists report, and ex-shamans, they all say that beneath the surface healing, these entities often produce new illnesses or crises, uh even worse, or even demand worship these entities. So it sounds like this ancient shamanic thing is the exact same thing, just now has gotten more convoluted and more elaborate in the more modern new age work, which tends to be the pattern in channeled information. I think it's the same thing happening, same, just rebrand, cultural. Um,
Yeah.
I think this applies to Reiki. Whatever you were talking about earlier is a
Yep.
different thing, and it's separate more than likely. But the New Age Reiki is very directly, openly admitting to presenting itself as a universal life force energy that
Yes.
practitioners have to channel and
Yep.
through their palms and to heal. And
Symbols and all kinds
yeah,
of shit.
drawing symbols and using mantras for entity invocation,
Yep.
uh, using specific spirits' names 3 times, Beetlejuice style. And there's many testimonies you can find out there if you look, practitioners getting deliverance and their abilities are gone, and they understand that that was entity facilitated. They're not really healing, it's just they're getting this feeling of power at the moment. They invite this entity, and then they release, just like in this SRT work, release whatever ailment they're causing at the same time, and boom, it makes it seem like you're healing. It's the same concept, just without all the rigmarole of
Yep.
channeling, or
Three
voice
three
channeling.
different attunements.
Yeah. No,
I
exactly.
mean, you have to go through different attunements to become a Reiki master. So,
It's
yeah.
facilitated by something outside of yourself, whatever you wanna call it.
Correct.
So
And can also be done remotely. It doesn't have
yeah,
to be
I
done in
know.
person,
I
right?
think
No, I'm saying from experience.
There's
So
remote spirit releasement therapy. I didn't even cover it today, but it's in the book.
yes.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah. But also I there's definitely some congruence with I, ayahuasca
Oh,
and
I don't doubt it.
and all that stuff, like what you're talking about with the shamanic
It's all divination and visions.
stuff for sure, and different entities, and even psilocybin to an extent.
I think pharmaceuticals might have the same pattern. I have a whole section in my book about it where, how do we know these mind altering pharmaceuticals that are numbing you, these antidepressants? How do we know? Like, people often don't feel any better on these things, but sometimes they do, or at least they feel numb. They turn off their emotions, which stops you
Oh,
from refining
yes,
yourself. How do
especially SSRIs, things
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
turn people into serial killers. Yeah. How do we know that these things aren't the entities involved in your, spiritual warfare that you don't recognize as spiritual warfare likely, and you think drugs will fix because of a chemical imbalance, which has never been proven as a physical thing ever by any studies ever. No chemical imbalance lore ever has been proven. Um,
Yeah.
if it's What if it's just demons laying off pressure as you take a pill so that you think that it's working, and really you're just separating yourself from God because you're not refining yourself, you're not dealing with the deeper sides of your emotions. They're just timing it at a time, and they'll still mess with you and still make your life miserable, but you'll be numb to it more so because you're turning off receptors that can recognize and have deeper thoughts about these things. I think it's all evil. I don't think anybody should be taking that stuff for more than a short time for traumatic recent events. As a mid or long-term fix, I don't believe in it at all. Personally, because I think it's the same patterns come up, and I think refining can only happen through dealing with these things as opposed to numbing yourself, personally. And I know a lot of people are on, SSRIs and these medications, but I don't think that they are doing themselves any favors spiritually at all. They're just regressing because you got to go to God with these things, and Yeah, that's just my thoughts. I'm controversial. What do I know? I'm just a little boy, but I want to do one little rant here that I think is super important to tie into the Christian framework because people people are hearing me talk about this Dan Duval guy, and they're like, yeah, well, he's not really a Christian. He's doing this occult stuff and calling it Christian, but there's real deliverance ministries and real practices out there done by genuine Christians following a biblical framework. And I somewhat agree, but I disagree in large areas because what I think is going on here is you have all this elaborate theatrics. You have channeled theatrics where they're basking as characters. You have the visions, which are calculated, controlled, detailed visions facilitated by these entities. You have possession going on where the possession of these encounters with exorcists and you see in the movies. And I'm not saying that supernatural stuff doesn't happen. I agree it does. But I think they're acting then too. Why is it in front of a Christian they're all of a sudden going to be their true selves? They're going to still mask as they're going to give themselves a different version of who they are to seem less calculated, less intelligent. They're going feral. They freak out. They make a scene. I think they're putting on a show. They're already caught. They already know that they can't really go undercover possessing you. So they're like, you know what? I might as well put on a show and deceive you on the way out. And who knows when they're banished and cast out, are they really cast out? Because sometimes it takes weeks. No, sometimes it takes days or hours. And I've heard sessions taking weeks, like on and on and on. If it's the authority in Christ, why is it taking weeks? I think they just get tired of it and they've deceived you enough along the way that they're using those opportunities to make you think something worked that didn't. It's like when you're cast out, maybe it's when you did a specific prayer or a specific verse you read or something, and then you think, okay, well, it must be that helps, so I'll use that next time. When you ask these people, these practitioners, these exorcists, how they get their methodology, it ain't from the Bible. I mean, they'll say it is, but the Bible doesn't give us instruction on this. It just gives examples of the apostles doing it. It doesn't even order us to do this, and I think it's good that it didn't because we would have been doing it way more frequently in dangerous ways, being deceived. Because we already do it a lot, quite a bit.
Right.
And people already, make fun of Christians for exercising all these things, and they're not even ordered to do it in the Bible. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it ever. I'm saying most of it is bound in trial and error. These practitioners learn from trial and error. Now, if you're doing it from trial and error, you may not be aware of this, but you're getting taught by demons how to get rid of them. And they're putting on a show and acting. I think this accounts for way more cases than we think. I'm not saying no one's ever been cast out in the authority of Christ through an exorcism. I'm saying the way you're doing it is not biblical often, and they'll say it's from learning.
I mean, for me, in my experience, the truest way that I've seen people get free of these things is because they take authority.
That's right. There you go. I was going to get there.
So there's two things. The other thing that I've really seen, and it usually is very helpful, is a direct baptism. In by somebody that's truly believes, right? Not because I think so often.
Get this demon out of me. I need it out.
Yeah, no, it's not that way. But the only real way that I have seen and found that I've seen be truly effective is that you claim your actual authority and flex on it like you own it because you do.
And you have to believe that it will work, and you can't be doubting it. If you doubt it too much.
If you give them an inhospitable place to be, they're not going to be there. So in turn, that's just it, man. That's my belief.
No,
So,
I agree 100%. And people hear that and they go, "Oh, you're saying the reason I didn't get my demon out was because I didn't care or believe enough." I rebuke that, and I get that argument. I'm not saying that
I understand, but there's still something going on.
it's a metaphysical law going on, and it requires your like true
And
heart
maybe there's
being
some
in it.
stuff that is bloodline bound.
I'm
that
not
you
against
have to
that.
deal with. No,
Or-
I'm not against it either.
Or like
but
occult, divination in the past that has opened you up so much that you need to close
of
those
course,
doors, so to speak.
but you have to close the doors. And
yeah,
I
but Dan
believe
Duval's
that
not
that
doing
is-
it right.
No, I believe that that's absolutely true. But guess who has to do that? You have to do that.
It can't just be
You
someone
can't-
yelling outside of you.
You can't hold on somebody. You can have people guide you through it,
Yeah.
but you have to do the work.
Absolutely.
They can't do the work for you. It's like anything else, guys. It's like an immutable law of the universe. Like you can't, nobody can do anything for you. You have to do it yourself.
That's
and
right.
This is no different. So
yeah, spiritual warfare I think needs to be reframed as gospel proclamation is something I'm sticking to. And a lot of people have had exorcism and they think, oh, it worked. I got rid of the demon. I'm like, well, keep in mind, it might not have been anything y'all did. It might have been strategy to make you believe in a process. It's like,
I mean, I look at the process of the Catholic Church and some other different things, and I think I'm going to say it. I think the Catholic Church is full of shit.
They're full of shit, man. I agree.
I really do. I think.
Yeah, the same veneration.
That doesn't mean the people are bad, guys.
No,
it's not a bad people.
But
I
just
think their doctrine is deceived. I think
a lot
that
of it,
if you are, I'm sorry, but
go to a man to get to God. You got to go through man first.
I'm not. Yeah, there's no reason to hold anyone between you and God. It doesn't need to be there. There's no place and or person that needs to be your advocate to Jesus. Straight up.
Yep. And they call Mother Mary the Queen of Heaven as if they've never read Jeremiah.
Or have any knowledge of what that means.
No, and in the Bible, it's very clear. It's a nefarious entity who is not
right.
Seriously, and they're calling her that. And I'm like, dude, it's because you're giving power to demons when you pray to Mother Mary, when you pray to the Queen of Heaven.
Go check out anything from the biblical hitman.
Oh yeah, I love Stephen.
He lays it out there, man. On the Queen of Heaven. Like, come on.
No, and it's all through Jeremiah. It's very flat in your face. Yes. You can't really deny it. But anyway, that's my whole rant about freaking what I think true deliverance is. And there's details in it, and I think the people who are SRA, MKU type victims have more to work through because of these connections.
Of course.
And they're victims. They're the worst type of victims. But whenever they get indoctrinated into these occult practices for releasing these spirits, it is not helping them. It is making it worse. And maybe for a time it's helping them. They're like, oh, it worked. But I'm like, it's worth it for them if you believe the bullshit they're feeding you. And you're not a danger to them if you're an asset believing their information. So it's, I'd rather get spiritual warfare and be fighting for what's right and know what's true. You know what I'm saying? And I have.
I mean, guys, I'm gonna give as the podcast we've talked about this a little bit, but if you're going into a dodgy situation, or just do it as a fucking habit, and I'm gonna swear because that's what I do.
You're a big man. You can do what you want.
I am going to tell you that go through. And when I go out into places where I take this shit seriously, and Ephesians 6:11-18, guys, I mean, just armor up with the armor of God, period. I mean, people don't think about it in a figurative way. It's all just whatever. I'm telling you, it helps.
Yeah.
You have to protect yourself. You have to take authority for you. Nobody's coming to save us. I mean, somebody is.
Except Jesus, yeah.
But at the end of the day, before we get from point A to point B, you're an open freaking vessel to these things.
Yep.
And all they want to do is deceive you. All they want to do is push you away.
And it's working. They have most of the world under their thumb, and they only can operate from deception. And people, they make themselves seem dumber in these channelings and these exorcisms. They make them seem like feral monsters, so that you can't assume that they're intelligent, calculated actors, which are, by the way, obviously possessing many of our world leaders and also, actors themselves. So if you think that they're not, they're trying to stay undercover and not get caught. When they're caught in an exorcism, they might as well go out on putting out a show for you and cater to your belief system and give you a bunch of bullshit. So, I
never, even it's my show, I never freaking put it out there, hardly ever. But I'm telling you folks, if you have questions with this stuff, buy my books. I'm telling you, it lays it out there.
Like and subscribe.
It lays it all out there. The war you didn't know you were in, understanding and winning the spiritual battle. Read this first and then move to this. Walking with Jesus Christ, a practical guide to living a Christ-centered life. It's not living a church-centered life. It's not living a Catholic or Orthodox or Muslim or any fucking religion. centered life. It's Christ-centered life, period.
Let's go. Well, that's a banger. I got all I needed, I think, for the day.
You know what I'm saying, though? It's like,
Yeah.
shit. It's just, it's not hard. It's simple, guys and gals. It isn't easy, though.
That's right.
But it's freaking simple. We dilute it and get it all weird because we have minds that won't shut off.
Because we're retarded.
That's fine. But at the end of the day, that's what it's about. That man right there, Jesus Christ.
That's my top
People
dog.
think I'm full of shit, and I don't care. And at the end of it, one day you're going to find out. I mean, at some point, we're all going to find out. So,
That's right.
Yeah, man. So tell everybody again where they can find you.
Yeah, man. If you want to follow me in my crazy theories and all the weird stuff I'm saying, my X account, I'm on the Elon Musk demon controlled X place because it's the best place to connect. Sorry. And it is Sethlehem, Bethlehem with a Seth. Instagram, if you want to see my crazy concert photography too, and my other stuff, it is Sethlehem _ on Instagram. And my link tree is in my bio on both of those accounts, and that link tree has access to my book, Spirit Realm Shenanigans, an unhinged rant exposing the psychic fabrications of discarnate dweebs and Nephilim nitwits. And it has an Amazon link and a PayHip link for me directly, and I'll sign it with my schizo, goofy handwriting and a little fun note. And if you go there, you will find all my podcast appearances. This is part 2. Every podcast I go on, I'm doing a part 1, 2, 3, and now I'm working on 4, which will be ready soon. Time travel. But yeah, the groundwork is in 3 parts of my material, but there's a lot more I'm not touching on just because the book is very dense. So buy the book. It's fun. I made it really silly, and there's honestly a lot of profanity in it, bad language, because I'm a goofy boy, and I wanted to convert New Agers and Gnostics. I'm not just trying to, I'm too silly. I had to do it, but I'm sorry. I repented for it already, but I'm not changing it. So yeah, and then my audiobook is free on YouTube. We listened to it earlier. YouTube and Spotify, and it's in my link tree, and you can contact me, and my email is found there. Everything's on there. So just follow my YouTube, because I'll be posting interviews I'm giving to other people soon. Maybe people you might want to have on. I'll send you some interviews later of some interesting friends I have that have some crazy theories. So if you feel so inclined, sir.
Absolutely. Man, thanks again for coming on, and we'll get part 3 out there soon too.
Yeah, I'm rolling, man. I'm ready to go.
Absolutely. All right. Again, check out all the stuff. I'll have everything in the show notes. All the links, all the stuff, all the things, and it'll be great. All right.
Like and subscribe.
Yes, absolutely. All right, guys, take care.
There's a preacher by the roadside with a mirror in his hand. Says he's seen the hidden heavens, says he knows the promised land. He talks about the fragments and the spirits in the air. Says the dead are still among us, and the angels meet him there. But the cross is getting smaller every time he starts to speak, and the truth sounds like a whisper underneath the floorboards creak. Beware that counterfeit light shining pretty in the dead of night. It looks like heaven from a distance, but it never burns right. Beware that counterfeit light, got a halo and a crooked smile. It'll heal you for a minute, then drag you another mile. Test the voice, test the sign, test the fruit, test the vine. Not every glow is holy, not every vision is right. Sometimes the devil comes dressed in counterfeit light. There are ghosts down in the cellar. There are graves above the stars. There are soul parts in the shadows and some second heaven scars. They build a map around the wounded. They build a kingdom out of pain. Then call the whole thing wisdom while they whisper Jesus' name. But if the healing hides the Savior, if the vision steals the throne, then it ain't the Holy Spirit. That's something wearing bones. Beware that counterfeit light, shining pretty in the dead of night. Looks like heaven from a distance, but it never burns right. Beware that counterfeit light, got a halo and a crooked smile. It'll heal you for a minute, then drag you another mile. Test the voice, test the sign, test the fruit, test the vine. Not every glow is holy, not every vision is right. Sometimes the devil comes dressed in counterfeit light. I don't need a hidden ladder, I don't need a secret key, I don't need a demon lawyer telling God what's wrong with me. I don't need a cosmic courtroom, I don't need a spirit show. I just need the blood of Jesus and the truth I already know. If it runs from the cross, if it bows to the self, if it sells you salvation from somebody else, then I don't care how bright that false fire burns tonight. I'll stand in the shadow of the cross and call it what it is. Beware that counterfeit light, shining pretty in the dead of night. Looks like heaven from a distance, but it never burns right. Beware that counterfeit light, got a halo and a crooked smile. It'll heal you for a minute, then drag you another mile. Test the voice, test the sign, test the fruit, test the vine. Not every glow is holy, not every vision is right. Sometimes the devil comes dressed in counterfeit light. Counterfeit light, counterfeit light. Looks like dawn, but it ain't daylight. Counterfeit light, counterfeit light, counterfeit light. If it hides the cross, it ain't the light.